Heat.
Welcome to Tru Heel Heat, the place where we use insider terms because we think we know what the fuck we're talking about, even though we don't. My name's Maxwell Jacob Friedman, and I'm better than you, and you know it.
Hello, everyone. It's Saturday. You know what that means. It's time for some Tru Heel Heat. We got a lot of wrestling to discuss. It was a jam-packed week headlined by AEW Revolution last Sunday. You had GCW with 2 shows. Stardom had a big show last Saturday. You had New Japan Pro Wrestling with the New Japan Cup, as well as the 51st anniversary. WWE news, including our boy Vince McMahon with a mustache. Yes, we're going to talk about mustache Vince. We're going to ask the question, is now after Revolution MJF the best in the world? We got all of that discussed, plus a very special guest who watches a lot of wrestling like me, so I'm very happy this Saturday. Let's get to Tru Heel Heat. Hello. It is me. Your Tru Heel Phenom, SP3. We are live on the Tru Heel Heat YouTube and Facebook for Tru Heel Heat 216 Mustache Mania. We're discussing the latest wrestling news, including Vince McMahon reportedly backstage at WWE Raw, rocking a brand new creepy mustache. Recap of a jam-packed week of wrestling with AEW Revolution, with an absolute classic between MJF and Bryan Danielson in the Iron Man match. Yeah, Dynamite, Rampage, WWE Smackdown, Raw, NXT, Roadblock, ROH TV, GCW, Holy Smokes, and Ransom, Impact on Access TV, Stardom, Triangle Derby, Championship Battle, New Japan Pro Wrestling 51st Anniversary, and the ongoing New Japan Cup 2023. And each of us will give you our top 5 matches from this past week. I know you are wondering, where's the beautiful, the lovely Miss Krssi Luv? She is unfortunately not with us this Saturday. She isn't feeling well, so hopefully she gets very well, get very better. But we got a very special guest. We got someone I've been looking forward to having on the show. Someone I discovered from the multiple platforms, probably someone who is on more platforms than even me. Yes, even me. He is over on Fightful doing interviews, doing Joshi content, as well as New Japan Pro Wrestling reviews. You see him over on Voices of Wrestling, Wrestle Purist, the 5-Star Network, Fight Game Media. I gotta run down the list, man. You are everywhere. He is a very knowledgeable individual when it comes to professional wrestling, widespread across the lane. He is Scott Edwards, aka Scott E Wrestling. Welcome to the show.
Whew. Okay. One, thank you for having me. I think that's the most important thing to say. 2, you made me realize how much wrestling I watch by doing that rundown, and I was like, oh no. And 3, running down all the places I'm at. You know, the Voice of Wrestling Match of the Year list?
Yes.
Yeah, you know how they show all the voters? So I was going down that when it came out this year, and I was like, what? Who's the person with the huge block? And I was like, oh, that's me. Because I thought writing down everywhere I write was important, I guess. But thank you so much for having me. As you can tell, everyone, I do love pro wrestling, so getting to come on and talk about it, I'll never say no. Let's just say that. I will never say no talking about my absolute favorite thing in the whole wide world. And I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to go through what was a humongous week in pro wrestling.
I almost ran out of breath going through all the different shows that we gotta talk about from this past week. It was a crazy week in professional wrestling, and I don't want to put you on the spot to give us a long block, but please, if my intro wasn't enough, please let the people know everything that you do across the lane. I know you've had several great interviews over the past week, including with one of my all-time favorites, Bull Nakano. I saw that one on your social media as well. Let the people know everything that you're doing, Scott.
Yeah, so I'm busy. If you couldn't tell by what he said, I'm busy. I write for Fightful. I do interviews for Fightful. I just had an interview with Janai Kai come out on their YouTube channel. Please go check that out. She's incredible. We talk a lot about her TJBW experience, going to Japan for the first time, women's wrestling here in the US. So I can't tell you enough. And I have a lot more interviews coming up, all of a sudden in the same week. So wait to see those. I don't know when they're coming out, so I'm not gonna promise anything because Fightful has a lot of interviews, so I can't jump to the front of the line at all times. But please check that out. I'll just give you a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Some of it might be hype for TJPW Grand Princess. There's my wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But yeah, also check out my Voices of Wrestling series that I created, Future of Joshi. Looked at, it was 16 different articles over the span of 4 weeks. It was supposed to be all one article, and we ended up having too much words, so it became 16. But I'm really proud of that. Highlighted some of the best young talent in Joshi that maybe not everyone knows about. And yeah, check out the 5-Star Network as well. That's where the Bull Nakano interview is, and I can't believe I just said that out loud. So yeah, please go check that out. I have a bunch of podcasts too that you guys check out. 5-Star Joshi Show and Ring Post Radio and stuff like that. But you can check me out here today. So I think that's the most important right now.
Love it, love it. Go out of your way to follow him. Like I told him in private, and I'll say it here on the show. He's one of those people whose Twitter account I find out what matches I should watch. And it was his Twitter account that last Saturday after Tru Heel Heat 215 was done, I had to go watch that Stardom show because I saw all throughout his timeline talking about that. And I was like, oh man, I gotta watch this show. And even me, I had to start tweeting about it because it was a great show. So we're definitely going to talk about that, some Joshi wrestling, which I know is going to make you feel at home here. Everyone watching, we appreciate you joining us here on Tru Heel Heat 216 every Saturday at 11:05 a.m. Eastern Time. It's the Cookout. We're inviting a new guest to the Cookout with Scott E here. So welcome everyone who is new. Remember to drop the thumbs up on the video, share the video with all your wrestling fans, friends, and family on all your favorite social media platforms. If you are new to the Tru Heel Heat YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. Like we said last week, we just hit 5,000 subscribers, already chucking along to 5.1. So we're making our way to 10,000 subscribers. Hopefully can hit that before the end of the year. So you can help us with that by sharing with a friend. And of course, this is an interactive podcast. So we love to hear from all of you live in the live chat. So sound off with your comments. We'll try to highlight as many as possible. But of course, the best way to have your comment highlighted on screen and to help the channel grow is with the super chat donations. We always highlight those, and it helps out all the contributors that you usually see here on the Tru Heel Heat YouTube channel. We got the Negro Buck Nick Jackson in the chat. He says it's Saturday morning, and you know what that means. Time for Tru Heel Heat, baby. We got ALW in the chat. It's early on the West Coast. He's in the West Coast, so I know it's early for him. He says THH 216. Let's fucking go. Got my bowl of cereal. Let's do it. We got Ace who says good morning everyone. We got Negro Buck giving you the welcome to the show. Scott E. We also got him showing some love to Miss Krssi Luv. We hope she is feeling better. We got Frantic World saying what's up SP3 Scott E and chat. We also got Annika showing some love to Miss Krssi Luv. We got Caden who says good morning guys. We got Dolores in the chat. All of my favorites, and Caden, it's in the chat, so I love it. it. I love it. And Caden, you can't tell everybody that I gave you kind words. Caden's got a great show. Watch along over on the Around the Point Network, watching ROH TV on Thursday nights. You should definitely check it out. But that's the only nice thing I will say about Caden, Scott. That's my thing. Caden is the person that winds up on my channel, and I never know why.
Oh man. From what I know, Caden's good people, so I think the kind words are very much necessary.
I mean, debatable, but we'll go
also
with that.
at every wrestling show ever, I think.
Yes, I said that. I was like, I wish I had your parents when I was your age. He's either 12 or 20 years old, somewhere between that. So I wish I had his parents when I was 12 or 20. We got Tru Heel Roll Call to start off every show. We love to shout everyone out who's watching us here on the YouTube channel, supporting us on Facebook. You can give us an emoji, heart emoji, laugh emoji, however this week made you feel with those emojis over on Facebook. So we got to shout out our top 3 conversation starters on our Tru Heels group page on Facebook. We got Zaire Akins, got at number 2, Alan Weinstein, and number 1, once again, the Negro Buck, Nick Jackson. Our Patreon backers also include Alan Weinstein, Nick, Vala B, Alex McCarthy, Professor Chris, Austin K, You My Boy Blue, Yachty, Robert, Steve, Antoine, Fifth Generation Carney, Ladarius, John, aka Russell Scopes, Dan, Kobe, Queen Monet, Dolores, John Martin, and DJ Eric. Thank you so much for supporting us across the board on our Patreon and all social media platforms. Now let's get into the wrestling, Scott. It was a big week, so we're starting off what we missed with one of the bigger shows from this past week, AEW Revolution from last Sunday. The show featured an absolute bona fide classic Iron Man main event with MJF pulling it out. He did it. He defeated the best in the world, Bryan Danielson, in overtime after a 66-minute absolute incredible professional wrestling from these two men. MJF, of course, sneaking out the win with the oxygen tank and the label lock, making Bryan Danielson tap. Just a fantastic performance, a match of the year candidate. You also had another match of the year candidate on this card as Hangman Adam Page beat Jon Moxley in a brutal, unbelievable Texas death match after hanging Mox to force a tap out. You also had another great match a lot of people consider a match of the year candidate as House of Black defeated the Elite in an insane trios bout to win the AEW World Trios Championships, their first titles here in All Elite Wrestling. You had Ricky Starks pull out the win in a very good opener against Chris Jericho. Jungle Boy defeated Christian Cage, finally putting their feud to rest in the final burial. A great matchup between those two as well. You had Jamie Hayter successfully defend the AEW World Women's Championship in a 3-way match with Ruby Soho and Saraya. After the match, Ruby Soho joined the outcast of Toni Storm and Saraya, officially turning heel. You also had the Guns beat Danhausen and Orange Cassidy, Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal, and the Acclaim to retain the AEW World Tag Team Championships in a 4-way. And post-match, we had FTR make their return to AEW and stake their claim for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. Scott E, what a show AEW Revolution was. What was kind of like, if you could pick just 3 highlights to the show that you're always going to remember, what would it be?
3? Oh man. Definitely Hangman hanging Moxley, without a doubt. Like that visual hasn't left my brain since it happened because it was so perfect, right?
Yes.
It's like, you know, and that's, I think, a credit to what they were able to do, right? Yeah, I know people talk about how the death match was like, well, you know, some people didn't like it, some people did like it. I loved it, okay? I loved it. And that's the, you know, number 1 moment for me from that show. Number 2 is, you know, Bryan Danielson tapping out. That I never expected it. You know, it's like when he did it, I my heart broke. One, but 2, I was just like, that is about how as well as you could put over MJF at the end of 65 minutes. And the third moment still is from that match. And it's when, Danielson gets the yes chance going for the very first time, embracing it. And I was like, I want this man to win so bad. And it's just like, it was like that goosebump type moment that you look for, I think, in wrestling that you can't really capture at all times. And did they capture it there? It was incredible.
Love that moment and that near fall. That was the key for me when we did our review for Revolution and I gave the match 5 stars. I was like, the key to this matchup was to make the fans believe Bryan Danielson could win, because everybody had come in thinking that MJF winning was a foregone conclusion. But it's that moment in overtime where he embraces the yes chance, he hits the Psycho knee, and he gets that near fall where everyone was on the edge of their seat at home in the building in San Francisco. That was the key to me to making that just a 5-star classic. My question for you, though, do you agree with me? I see our producer in the chat saying the same thing. Do you think this is the best Iron Man match you have ever seen?
100%. I can't think of any Iron Man match that has come close to this, let alone be even, 75% as great. Because for me, when it's an Iron Man match, I go into it carefully because that's a hard match to make work, right?
Yeah.
You got an hour. You have an hour to create something great. And, some people will watch it, and I know some people will be like, well, the first 15 minutes were slow. I was like, but that was part of the story. And after that, it was all-timer stuff every single moment of the way. Like, I think of all the Iron Man matches that have happened over the past even couple of years. And listen, I love Bayley and Sasha's 30-minute Iron Woman match. I also think 30 minutes is actually perfect for Iron Man matches because hours are just so tough. But going into the show, I said, well, if anyone's going to make it work, it's Mr. Bryan Danielson. And credit to MJF because, I think a lot of us have, we've all said some doubts, but I know he's a great wrestler. Like, that was never a question. It was just, okay, this man's never wrestled more than 38 minutes in his life. What can he do in this? And I think Danielson helped lead the way, and it became the greatest Iron Man match of all time.
Yeah, I was like, previously I would have said Brock Lesnar and Kurt Angle, but that had the constraints of being on TV. Sure. You had Rock and Triple H from Judgment Day 2000, but that had the wonky finish with The Undertaker costing The Rock. So every Iron Man match that I would think of that is on that level, I have a fault or a nitpick. There's no nitpicks to it. You say like the first 15 minutes was slow. That first exchange they had made that first 15 minutes where they do the double kip up at the end, and then in that first like 20 minutes you have the moment where he starts working over Bryan's arm and he tries to do the skin in the cat and he super kicks him and then does the HBK taunt. Like, there's so many different moments throughout the whole entire 60 minutes. That's what made that just a fantastic match. Now, my question to you before we talk about the news coming out of Revolution, where do you think this match ranks as far as the greatest AEW matches in its inception?
Man. Well, I guaranteed top 10, probably at least top 5. Like, there's been a lot of great AEW matches.
Yes.
And this is probably the best without the Elite involved. Is that maybe the best way I can say it? And I count Cody, by the way, as part of the Elite from back.
Me too.
So I'm not because I love Cody Rhodes versus Dustin Rhodes. That's one of my favorite AEW matches of all time. So I do hold that in high regard. But this is absolutely the best without any Elite involved. No question. Like, and not really shocking. I think all the matches that have that consideration involve Bryan Danielson. So not a surprise.
Yeah, I would say Brian versus Hangman, Brian
Yeah.
versus Omega. Those two are definitely in consideration. I would say the ones that are on this level would be the Revolution 2020 tag match with
Of
the
course.
Elite versus the Young Bucks with Paige and Omega. I would say, yeah, Cody and Dustin, Omega and Danielson. For me, I love that match. That might be my favorite
That's still probably my
Dynamite
favorite
match.
singles.
Yeah, might be my favorite Dynamite match of all time. And Hangman and Kenny from Full Gear. I would say those are 1A, 1B as far as the best pay-per-view main events that AEW's ever done is the Full Gear 2021 and this.
Yeah, I think you're definitely 100% right there. I'll even say, like, I'm willing to put the death match into the top 10 too. I think that's why Revolution was so good, is that
Yeah.
you had those two matches that really made this be like, oh, right, this is AEW. This is what they could do at any moment, at any time. And then you also have the Elite match and all, and up and down the card, you have many moments. So it's like, I love the Texas Death Match because I think it played a lot to their story. But yeah, you're definitely right with the three singles matches you named, the three main events you named. I couldn't think of one that would join that conversation. I think those are definitely the prestige three, I'd say.
Yeah, but this card was just ridiculous, and definitely, I say the formula for AEW is subpar buildups, over deliver on the pay per view. Because Forbidden Door was kind of subpar buildup, and that was the show of the year to a lot of people last year. And now you got this is now my front runner for show of the year because of those three top matches that we discussed with the Elite versus House of Black, which is up there. I would say it's up there with kind of a couple of the Death Triangle Elite matches as one of the best trios matches they ever produced. And I agree with you. Kind of, I think that Texas Death match might have been the best Texas Death match that I've ever seen.
Yeah. I mean, I'm never gonna doubt John Moxley and Hangman Page. We've seen them have three great matches, so it was never a question how great their match would be. It would just be how would they make it different. And yes, bringing Texas Death would do that, but it's also how can you use your creativity to make this unique? And how couldn't they make this unique? I mean, you got a fork spot. I think that plays to many many fans of deathmatch wrestling. But you also had the simplicity of pro wrestling in there, right? It wasn't all about, the blood and guts and the weapons. It was about these two and their rivalry and playing to that. And like, my God, like, I remember when there were people like, oh, there's no top baby face in AEW. Hangman Page has been that guy, folks. He's been that guy. And he just needed a match to remind people. He didn't have a match to remind people. He had a war to remind people that he is that guy. And him versus MJF is as big as it feels. Whenever they do it, it's going to feel as big as it should.
And it's crazy because on this show, I think maybe a month and a half ago, we had the conversation of, does AEW have that babyface in the waiting? Because for all the good that I can say about Revolution, I can't say so bad about Tony Khan's booking, where a lot of the hot babyfaces he's cooled off, like Eddie Kingston, like Ricky Starks before Revolution. But coming out of Revolution, you have Ricky Starks, you got Jungle Boy, you got Hangman Adam Page. They got three guys. And then you have different matches for MJF that MJF kind of talked about in the media scrum with him versus Kingston, him versus the other three pillars. There's him versus Hangman. There are now these money matchups that you want to see for the top prize. So I agree with you. They kind of revitalized their babyface roster with a lot of the wins that they gave on this show. We got Frantic World, who first says that Iron Man match is in my top five. Like I said, I think it's definitely a top five AEW match. I don't know if it's number one, but it's definitely in that conversation. We got Negro Buck, who says Hangman Page is him, and people keep forgetting that. That's Tony Khan's fault, though. Yeah, I mean, how Tony Khan ended and cooled off on Hangman Adam Page last year, that was a bad move. He should have kept him strong and kept him in the picture. But like you said, I think the whole entire Moxley feud was about revitalizing Page as a top babyface.
And remember, all was kind of an accident in a lot of ways too, right? I don't know if the plan was to make this a long-term feud. It probably was, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
But some things just, turn out to be perfect. And I think from that, you now have another, top heel or heel faction, wink, wink, nudge, nudge from Dynamite. And I'm so excited. Like, Hangman is... I remember him in Ring of Honor, and I remember being a big fan of Hangman Page. Some people and some people asked me why. Like, what do you see? I'm like, he just has a likability about him. He's very good in the ring. I think when he went over for the G1, that really helped him.
That did.
In ring wise. And maybe he didn't have the standout tournament because of who you have in that tournament, obviously, but he had a really good showing. And was it the match with Jay White? I think they did in San Fran. That was like, that jumped out to me. I was like, okay, so this is how good he can be. And when AEW brought him in and like, this is our guy, I was like, yeah, no, it makes sense. And maybe he wasn't initially ready when he faced Jericho at the original All Out, but he couldn't be more ready now. He was ready when he won the world title, and it feels like he's even more ready now to be that top baby face and not be cooled down this time. Have that great babyface run that I think we don't see enough in wrestling.
Yeah, I remember seeing him as Adam Page when he first started off in Ring of Honor. And I think like one of his first big matches was against Matt Hardy when Matt Hardy was doing the big money Matt stuff in Ring of Honor. Yeah. And then he had the time where he was in the faction with like BJ Whitmer. Then that's tailed off into its own feud. He had the feud with Jade Briscoe in Ring of Honor. And it was just like every feud, it just felt like he was just climbing up the ladder little by little. I remember the feud with Frankie Kazarian as well in Ring of Honor, and then he ended off his Ring of Honor run with probably the best match he had in ROH with him and Jeff Cobb. I was live there in the Hammerstein at Final Battle 2018, and then like you said, it felt, he had the speech at the first press conference, but it felt like it was they were kind of like rushing him into the position a little bit. And then I was at a live event, it was House of Glory, and I think the Young Bucks were booked on the show, and Hangman came out, and that was the first time he ever said cowboy shit. And that was the thing for me where I was like, okay, you're on to something. You're on to something. He wasn't quite there yet, like you said, at All Out 2019. But I knew from that cowboy shit promo before All Out that I was like, okay, you're on to something. And then the 2020 that he had really just changed his whole career. And he feels that was the point where I was like, he feels like a homegrown guy now, because this is different from the Hangman Adam Page that we saw in Ring of Honor, from how they built him with the whole drinking and the insecurities and the fallout with the Elite into his journey to the World Championship. But I'm so glad that it feels like he's getting back into that top position.
Yeah, I think you nailed it there, kind of going to somehow being able to wrap up what his road to this moment has been. I'm just excited for what's next for him, and we kind of have an idea. It does seem like where he's gonna get back with his old buddies sooner rather than later now. We're getting closer and closer. It's just a matter of when does Tony Khan pull that trigger, because I think a lot of people are looking forward to that. But one hell of a run for Hangman Page to this top moment, and beating Jon Moxley, as I like to say, not a small deal by any means.
No. And clean, and made him tap out. First person to make him tap out in AEW. And thank you, Negro Buck, for the decade stable. I was like, I remember the stable with BJ Whitmer. I don't remember the name at all, but yes, it was the decade. We got CM saying the Full Gear Saga on BTE, greater than everything else. We got Negro Buck, who says, I remember seeing that first cowboy shit promo on BTE. That was beautiful. Yes, it's great stuff. And Caden pointing out it's the first time in almost 10 years Moxley had tapped out. That's an accomplishment, man. That's as good as winning the World Championship, is beating Jon Moxley, based on how protected he's been.
Yeah, for sure. Multiple time world champion. the guy for the past year. We won't overlook that.
Exactly. Coming out of Revolution, they had a bunch of success that Tony Khan talked about during the post-show media scrum following the pay-per-view. Tony Khan talked about the pay-per-view game being well over 800,000, a record for the city of San Francisco. He said that the attendance was around 9,000 total, with over 8,000 paid. WrestleTix noted that the Chase Center capacity is 10,824, so this was not a sellout. However, Khan noted that it was the best attendance for a Revolution pay-per-view ever. Khan added that the show had around 130,000 to 140,000 pay-per-view buys at the time of the media scrum. An exact number has not been provided, but the Wrestling Observer newsletter had additional details for pay-per-view buys. It was noted that of those who bought Full Gear back in November, 46.3% bought Revolution. Of those who bought All Out, 45.9% bought Revolution. Meanwhile, only 8.4% of those who bought WWE Elimination Chamber also bought Revolution. And this pay-per-view was also shown in movie theaters and earned between 120,000 and 125,000 through that revenue. There was over 5,000 in attendance at a couple of the movie theaters, and Full Gear had around 125,000 with only 300 theaters, and 450 theaters showed this pay-per-view event. And that also means that per theater number is down, as most theaters only had 11 to 12 people in attendance. And finally, the Google searches were at 50,000, and it was number 12 for the day. But the media scrum and a lot of the talk coming out of Revolution had to do with a moment during that Iron Man match that we talked about here, with MJF going viral for throwing water on a kid in the audience during his Iron Man match. Tony Khan addressed the matter in the post-media scrum, saying that the AEW World Champion, talking about him grabbing a bottle of what he thought was water from a woman in a crowd and emptying the contents on her kid at ringside. In the post-show media scrum, MJF and Khan were asked about the matter, with MJF quipping, the kid looked thirsty. Next question. Khan, for his part, offered a bit more detail on the matter. He said that we had a conversation before we came up here. He said about any consequences for the event. We had a serious conversation, and I mean that, and it's not to be taken lightly. And the young man Titus was a real pro about it, and we'll see Titus here again in AEW, and I believe Titus will be coming to Sacramento for this past week's Dynamite. But I was just with him, and Titus was a real champ about it, and the champion didn't act like a champion there, but I think Titus was great. MJF then commented once more, saying that salt of the earth, that Titus, real worried about him, with a sarcastic face. According to Brian Alvarez on Monday's Wrestling Observer Radio, Titus was not a plant, and MJF actually threw a drink onto a child. However, the drink was not water. It was noted that it was actually tequila, which MJF didn't know, and it ended up burning Titus's eyes. Fans began to give the kid their merchandise to cheer him up, including Fightful's Will Washington, who was down on the floor. Eventually, Amanda Hubert came out to sit with Titus, and he was brought backstage. He was given signed merchandise, as well as being able to meet his favorite wrestler, who is Powerhouse Hobbs, as well as his mom and him were given tickets to Dynamite this week. What did you think about this whole scenario with the drink getting thrown on the child? Did you think that, it was probably bad judgment for not checking what the drink was, but what did you think about the uproar that it got the next day, with a lot of people focusing more on that than the quality of the Iron Man match?
It's not surprising in today. Right today, these days, and I get it, right? It's a kid. If it's a regular fan, no one cares. Like, if it's if it's a 25-year-old man, no one's batting an eye. But because it's a kid, I get it. For me, it was done and good after the press conference when Tony Khan told us everything. Sure, should have MJF done it? Absolutely not. But for me, it's like, okay, this is MJF trying to get to that ultimate heel rather than just being every other heel in wrestling today, right? How is he going to establish himself from being different from Roman Reigns? How is he going to establish himself being different from that kind of heel? And this is how. This is definitely how. I'm happy that the kids got to beat Powerhouse Hobbs and all that. So in the end, kid made out. Feel bad for his eyes, obviously. I think that's the problem. Had it been water, I think a lot of people would be able. Everyone would have moved on by now. And I think most people have moved on by now. But I don't think it would have been the big story as much on Monday, if we were just like, oh yeah, it was water. Okay. The match itself was phenomenal, and I don't think that really added anything to the match necessarily. It was just a moment in the match that he just did something heel. But I understand the anger. It just I moved on from it after the press conference, and that was that.
I was the same. I was like really wondering why it was this big uproar, why you had people like calling out AEW and Tony Khan, like, you can't let him do this. You can't let him get away with this. And it's just like he addressed it. He addressed it. He was asked about it. Then, good on Will Washington for asking that during the post media scrum. He did great. A lot of the Grab City guys did great with the post media scrum with their questions, and it was addressed. Like, why was it such a bigger thing? It felt like it was a bigger thing the next day than it was in the moment, and that was my problem with it.
Yeah, and maybe it's because it was tequila. Like, is that it? Like, it had to be that, because otherwise I was like, I thought we were good and done after he talked about it at the press conference, truthfully. I missed a lot of the conversation online. I think maybe just because, like, I was already on to the next wrestling event mentally. So I think that was part of my solution. It was like, oh, that was yesterday. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, we're still talking about that. Like,
we're
on this next one.
We're still talking about that show. That was yesterday. The other stuff happened. I was trying to name the most random show that I watched this week, but I couldn't think of it.
Well, just a few hours after Revolution ended, you had the New Japan show, so it's like, oh, I'm on to that one. Like, what are we still talking about this?
Exactly. Yeah, New Japan Cup was on. We had Okada and Tanahashi team. What are you guys talking about?
Why are we not talking about David Finlay of the Bullet Club? What are we doing here?
I can't believe we were talking about an AEW pay-per-view over David Finlay joining Bullet Club in 2023. Come on, people.
Come on. Gano betrayed Jay White. Oh man. Desi bringing up a point saying I have to go back and watch the main event because that whole thing took me out of it. I'm a mom. I'm sorry, not okay, but good on AEW for fixing their champs mistake. Yeah, I think that's the big thing. What Desi said at the end, that it was on AEW to kind of make it better for the kid, and I think they did that. MJF is MJF. My question to you, though, Scott, is that before Revolution, we heard the reports that MJF had been telling WWE talent, I can't wait to go there next year. Taking aside whether we think that MJF has re-signed a longer deal with AEW or not, do you think MJF could be this type of heel in the family-friendly setting of WWE?
Yes, but I promise you this kid would be a plant in WWE. They would purposely have a lot of plants for things that he was going to do. I think that would be the big difference. He's not going to do it to, like, the kid wearing the John Cena shirt that is just there to see the wrestling show like this poor kid was. Yeah, right? It's like, it's going to be plants if he were to do it in WWE. And I'll say here, just like the Elite, I don't think he's leaving, but I appreciate him playing it up because, it just adds to his title defense and reign overall. It's like, oh, is he gonna bring the title to WWE? The answer is no. And truthfully, I don't want his reign to last that long, but if it is, then I understand where they're going with.
Yeah, that's what, and I get what in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer talked about how Tony is doing, this. He had the thing with FTR with Dax Hardwood saying that he might make a decision to, leave AEW. In Tony's mind, with these guys that maybe or not, he's already had signed deals with. This type of story is making it seem like they are choosing AEW over WWE. So in the long run, it does make AEW look better. So I do get that type of mindset as far as that. Finally, involving Revolution, also about the aforementioned MJF. In a post on Twitter, MJF showed the effects from his Iron Man matchup from Revolution against Bryan Danielson, which included a swollen eye. He wrote that the blood in the hematoma, aka the devil horn, on my forehead has now pulled down into my eye. Still the champ though, and the rats don't seem to mind. MJF made quite an impression at the AEW media scrum, ranting on his way in that he is the best wrestler in the world. MJF came in as the first speaker with Tony Khan following the retention of the AEW World Championship and cut a promo about beating Bryan Danielson and thus being the best wrestler in the world. He said, and I quote, "Who's the best wrestler in the world? Is it Kenny Omega? Is it John Moxley? Is it Bryan Danielson? I'm just curious. Tell me, Dave," talking to Dave Meltzer. "Is it your boy Kenny? Is it John? Yeah, dipshit. I'm the fucking man now. Me. I'm the best wrestler in the world. There is no more complete wrestler on the planet. Nobody's got my body. Nobody's got my mind. Nobody's got my brain inside the ring, on the microphone. Hell, boom, 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 on this media scrum. I don't need a whole group backing me. I don't need someone advising me in my ear what to say, how to walk, how to talk. There is nobody. I mean, none. Nobody on my level. You're going to hear it over and over because ain't nobody dethroning the devil. Shit's getting real, isn't it? But I feel good. My back ain't against the wall no more. I got nothing to panic about. I'm having fun now. Tony, you ready to have some fun? Answer some questions? Good shit." This man cut one of the best promos of the year on the media scrum, and it wasn't bashing the company, unlike the last great promo that was memorable at a media scrum. And the pickle bit. I love the pickle bit. Pickles over muffins, 100%.
Pickles over muffins. Yes. They'll
So
all be in the same place soon enough. Don't worry.
exactly. So my question to you, it's in the title for this episode of Tru Heel Heat, Scott. Is MJF now the best in the world? Overall, we're not talking about in-ring worker. We're talking about if you put it all together in the ring, on the mic,
Right.
as a character. Overall, is he the best in the world now?
Yeah, so thank you for specifying, especially because I think everyone looks at the best in the world very differently because everyone cares about aspects differently, right? If you're a fan of Japanese pro wrestling, you probably don't care too much about the promo side. I know I don't always, but when I'm watching, WWE, AEW, I absolutely do care about the promo side. I have a handful of people that I will put in the best in the world conversation, but if we're going to go off the criteria of promos, in ring, style, what he is, and bring in the world champion aspect because sometimes that does matter. If you are the world champion, you are already better than everyone else, and that kind of fits what MJF does. He is everything AEW could have hoped for. I think that's most important, right? When they brought him in, from MLW, people forget that.
Yes.
I don't know if they could have saw him be this great because it was always about the promos. How good would he be in the ring? So I think I'm answering my own question. If you put it all together and that is your criteria, right? Promos, everything, it's hard to beat MJF. And I think Roman Reigns is excellent, right?
Yeah.
If we're just going to look at these two, especially, because I think that's kind of where he was alluding to. MJF reminds me a lot of CM Punk in a lot of ways. However, what I'll give MJF is MJF's a smoother wrestler in that I think
agree.
Punk was always more raw and rough around the edges. I think that's probably why I love CM Punk so much. But MJF is literally, the the Randy Orton saying, if you could build a wrestler from the ground up, I think it would be MJF. I don't think it's Randy Orton anymore. I think it's MJF, right? Everything about him, and especially for the current day and the current work style, because he's got unreal athleticism that I think he just sprinkles a little more in every single match he has. So if we go by that criteria, it's hard to argue against him now.
Yeah, when you look at like how well-rounded he is and how he stepped up, and there was people that were doubting if he could do the 60-minute Iron Man match, and I wasn't one of those people, honestly, because I had seen the 2 matches with Punk. I had seen the Darby Allin match at Full Gear 2021. He had some of Chris Jericho's best matches in AEW back in 2021 as well. He had the great match with Jungle Boy at Double or Nothing 2020. He steps up when he needs to, and he always delivers when the lights are on brightest. So I have to give this guy credit. The 5 that I said on our review of Revolution, I'm gonna right now off the top of my head, I would put him top 6 in the world. I was like, the other people that are in that conversation would be the aforementioned Roman Reigns, Will Ospreay, who I don't think a lot of people give him enough credit for how good he's gotten as a character and on the mic. Kenny Omega, even though Kenny is not getting that opportunity to be the best wrestler in the world, only because of his own choice, honestly, it sounds like from his interviews, when he is given that chance, he proves why he's in that conversation as well. So Roman, Kenny, Will Ospreay, Kazuchika Okada. Sometimes, and me and Jimmy talked about it on AEW Ramble, sometimes you could be so great at one thing, it negates not being the greatest at the other things. I think when it comes to Japanese promos, I think that if you ask people out in Japan, they would say he's a great promo. As a character, especially now, this I don't give a shit who the hell I'm facing. I'm better than everyone. I am GOAT level. I am him. This I am him tour that he's doing right now, he's unreal as a character. So it negates the fact that I don't understand his promos, and he's so great in the ring. I have to put Okada in there. And then the other guy is the guy that stood across from MJF at Revolution, who I would say, as I said, there's a debate on how you could shift it around with that top 6. I put Bryan number 1 because Bryan has been delivering on his promos as of late. He's a great character in this old man American Dragon that he's played since he can't come to AEW. And he's had 3 all-time great characters with the Yes Movement, with the Planet's Champion, and now this old man American Dragon. So he's had this great character. He's awesome on the mic. No, I don't think there's a lot of guys who could cut a better babyface promo than Bryan Danielson. And then in the ring, I don't think anybody can touch him after this Iron Man match and the stretch of matches that he had to start off 2023. So that would be the 6, along with MJF, that I would put at the top 6 in the world as far as male wrestlers go.
Yeah, I think the only person that I would add in, and this is very niche, so I apologize, but it would be Kento Miyahara of All Japan. That would be the only other guy.
Dude, you just popped me because he's like my new favorite wrestler. When it comes to pacing a matchup, I don't think there's anyone better than Kento Miyahara. And his matchups with Yuji Nagata this year, the Ayaki matchup as well. Those 2 matches and the tag team match he had with the Nomura brothers on opposite sides. Those 3 matches are among some of my favorite matches that I've saw this year. So I don't mind if that's a niche one. Maybe people don't know about him, but you need to. Kento Miyahara is in that I would say top 10 conversation for sure.
Yeah, especially for men's. For me, it's unquestionable. You kind of lined up all the people that would come to my mind. I think it has to probably be Danielson right now, and I know he's about to take some time off or whatever he's doing. We don't really know if it's time off or not, but I think the only person that can hold MJF back from being number one is MJF.
I agree.
And that'll come with his promos. That'll come with how far he goes with certain things, right? Because that was pretty much half the build up to this match. Was some people just were like, "Ah, come on, man! Like, you're better than that. You're better than that." And I know he's better than that. And then a lot of those promos, I saw him in the feud with CM Punk. I think that's the greatest single story AEW's done, and it's a lot to do with what MJF did, not just Punk. So it all comes down to him. How great does he want to be? Because he can be that great. Can he be Okada, Danielson, Omega level? Ospreay? I'll put Ospreay in there too. Or will he go too far to be the mean Reign of Terror heel? We'll have to see.
We'll see. He needs to go closer to those guys and less closer to Triple H in 2003. We got a super chat donation here from the good brother Caden, he says, "I'd still take his gum shot." You still have the gum. He probably put it in a shrine, a MJF gum shrine that he probably has at home. Oh my God. We got Ronin Ghost. It says MJF didn't even tap out with a broken MCL. That's a champ right there. I agree. We got Ace Shock in the chat saying, "I like pickle chips." I love it. I do agree with answering this question from Ace. I do agree with you. I don't see MJF or the Elite going to WWE, and I don't see them being at this level of where they're at right now in WWE with the current landscape of, it really is a focus on Cody and Roman Reigns, the Bloodline, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens. How do they kind of get their way and shift into that when you also got guys coming in like Jay White? You still got, Judgment Day doing their thing. So it's going to be hard for them to fit in and get to the spots that they're at in AEW in WWE, regardless of how talented they are. And I am very high on all their talent, as you have heard.
Yeah, for every AJ Styles and Cody Rhodes, there's, an EC3 and, guys like that just don't succeed. And let me say, all three of these guys are infinitely better than EC3. I am not saying they are. They in many ways are probably better than the two I said that have been great. And I love Cody and I love AJ, but I'm just saying you never know. And what you do know is that AEW is going to have them at the top for a very long time. The Elite has so much still to do, which is crazy. Yeah. I don't want them to. I don't need them in WWE because then we're just going to have the fake Elite, and I don't want to see that.
and I'm like you. I think that CM Punk might be coming back sooner rather than later. And there's no bigger matchup than AEW. The biggest matchups AEW can offer us is Punk versus MJF 3, Punk versus Omega, and Punk and FTR versus the Elite. So they still got to give us that. And Kenny Omega has so many. He hasn't really faced all of the roster really yet. So there's still fresh matchups on AEW for him as well.
Yeah, I like to make the joke that CM Punk has to come back because Tony Khan still hasn't got his CM Punk Hiroshi Tanahashi match that he was so excited to book. I think that's almost just as important to Tony Khan as anything else. It's like, I didn't get that match. That was my big match that I was going to do first time ever. I didn't get it, so I need that. But yeah, I've been pretty confident Punk's coming back for a while now. And I think everyone's going to be willing to play ball because that is big money all around for everyone.
Yeah. We got Caden. It says, "I'd put Moxley just ahead of Max." I would have if this was 6 months ago. Now I don't, because I think Moxley is definitely in the top 10 for sure. But I feel like Moxley, it was kind of a passing of the torch at Full Gear from Moxley to Max. And despite Moxley having so many great matches in his AEW, I don't think any of his matches is as great as that Iron Man match.
I think
I mean, the Texas Death Match is a great
It might be my
matchup.
favorite Moxley match, truthfully, in
Yeah,
AEW, which is pretty funny. Yeah, no, I get that. I get that. I think so. I mean, I think Moxley's absolutely in the best in the world conversation, right?
yes,
He's got the promos, he's got the in-ring. And I'm excited to see where this heel goes. Maybe he will be a better heel than Max. Who knows? You know, maybe that'll be the ultimate test. I like his viciousness. I like his style. I think it comes down to style more than anything on who you
that too.
prefer. Yeah.
Yeah, we got a super chat donation here from the Negro Bug Nick Jackson. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. He says Dragon is the fucking goat. Full stop. The best. He's in my Mount Rushmore of all time. All time greats. Like I love Bryan Danielson. I am a ROH fan since I was like 17. No, since I was like 15, 16 years old. And I went, my first ever independent show was ROH Final Battle 2006 because I wanted to see hometown New York boy Homicide and the Bryan Danielson run. But after that, I was like, I went there to root for Homicide, but I became a fan of Bryan Danielson, and it's never been the same. And he's like my started from the bottom, now he's here type of wrestler because I saw him with a couple of hundred other New Yorkers, and now get to see him on the biggest stages possible.
Yeah, I think that greatest of all time conversation. I think we toss around GOAT a lot, but no one maybe deserves that, at least in AEW right now, more than Bryan Danielson, because this is a guy that said, you know what, I'm going to leave this big comfy contract and all this money, and I'm going to go remind people who the fuck I am. And that's what he's done for the past year and a half now. Is that how long he's been there?
Yeah.
Time has flown. Jesus.
He's 18. I think it's just over like 18, 20 months. He's been with AEW and so many great
And
matches.
still
Like,
no titles. Come on, Tony.
come on, you gotta give us one. You gotta give us one, just one, man. And might be here we got Ace Shock say it has to be Bryan versus ZSJ at Supercard of Honor. Maybe not. You got to do Forbidden Door because you didn't give us to that at Forbidden Door, and I think that will give Zach a long enough run. And I would love them to have just a 15-minute time limit TV title match, and then Bryan wins that, so he has a reason to go to Japan. Give me that.
I need the 1G1 run. I need it.
Yes.
If I never get Kazuchika Okada versus Bryan Danielson, I'm coming for you, Tony Khan. I'm coming for you. Just want you to know that. I just want him to know that now. That is the one match. The moment he walked out, I said, I need that one. I know Bryan Danielson wants Ospreay more than anyone, but I mean, this current Okada, this heelish Okada versus babyface Bryan Danielson. People, you want to talk potential greatest match of all time, folks.
Yes.
And I don't just put that lightly. I mean that. Like, that could be that great.
Yes, you saw what Bryan and Kenny did with a 30-minute time limit. It's one of the greatest TV matches of all time. If you could give me those two guys with over 30 minutes, Okada and Bryan in like the Tokyo Dome or even Yokohama Arena or Osaka, come on.
Yeah,
that's one of the greatest.
Good reminder for people. I just watched what Bryan Danielson did with MJF. So,
yes.
Yes.
We got Nero Buck with another super chat donation. Appreciate you, sir. Saying we still need Kenny versus Adam Cole. Yes, if this is the second or third company that doesn't give us Kenny versus Adam Cole, yes, Kenny, you have to stay just for that, please. We can't escape this matchup again because I was such a diehard New Japan and ROH fan, and during the whole when I was early fan of BTE when they first started putting on Cole and Kenny and teasing the friction with the Young Bucks in the middle, the Young Bucks kind of being the child between the mom and the dad that were fighting over them in the divorce court. It was great stuff, and we never got that matchup. Do not deny me again.
I thought about this the other day, and this is kind of a little off topic, but it's about Adam Cole, so I guess it's on topic. I think he would be the one beating Roman if he stayed with Triple H in power. Adam Cole, people, I don't know if people remember this. Adam Cole is maybe Triple H's favorite wrestler of all time. So I was like thinking about that, and then like when I saw Adam Cole do his babyface promo a few weeks ago, you know, with the announcement he's going to be wrestling right before the All Access show, I was like, what if he stayed? Now, don't get me wrong, he probably would have been a lot more I don't know where he would have been by the time Triple H came into power, obviously, but
Yeah.
something tells me he wouldn't be too bad off there anymore.
Yeah, and he's revived a lot of people. Like, for all the faults that I say Triple H hasn't done much with the people he's brought back, the people that were already there, he's improved a lot of their presentation, whether it's Owens, Zayn, Rollins, Lashley, up until recently. Like, he's done some good work with the people that were already there. A-Shock bringing up Omega versus Punk. There's so many for Omega, so yes. And Negro Puck saying, "Holy fuck, Scott, just blew my mind."
With the Adam Cole thing? With the Adam Cole thing? Yeah, I thought about that and I was like, interesting. Like, he might be in that role.
You saw what he was trying to do with Karrion Kross until he realized, like, maybe not so fast. Maybe not so fast with that one, at least.
He would have hit Roman with the "then you ring the bell" comment. You know, we give you the entrance, we give you then we ring the bell. That would be pretty good.
Then it's all Superman punches and spears. Let's talk about AEW Dynamite this week. They did 858,000 viewers, so not as big as a usual post pay-per-view edition of Dynamite, a little bit up from last week. This show featured the main event, which saw a Falls Count Anywhere hoss fight as Wardlow lost the TNT Championship just days after beating Samoa Joe at Revolution to regain the championship to Powerhouse Hobbs, the face of the Revolution, the first face of the Revolution winner to become the TNT Champion on his title shot. But it was all thanks to QT Marshall. What? Okay, we'll talk about that. Orange Cassidy defeated Jay Lethal in a very good opener to retain the AEW All-Atlantic Championship. Post-match, Jeff Jarrett attacked Cassidy, hitting him in his injured knee that was injured during the matchup with a guitar. Later in the show, Tony Khan, with no blinks, announced that the All-Atlantic Championship was going to level up next week in Winnipeg when it becomes the AEW International Championship. Next week in Winnipeg, when Orange Cassidy defends against Double J, Jeff Jarrett, next week in Winnipeg. We got a pair of promos from the Iron Man match participants, with MJF cutting a great promo saying that he will be having a re-bar mitzvah for his birthday next Wednesday on Dynamite, while Bryan Danielson cut an excellent promo, a fantastic promo, saying that he was going home after feeling MJF was right, that he put wrestling ahead of his kids and his family. Great stuff by Bryan Danielson. You got Ruby Soho, who also cut a brilliant promo of her own, explaining her heel turn and beat Sky Blue. Post-match, she proceeded to turn on Willow Nightingale, laying her out with Saraya and Toni Storm. You had the Blackpool Combat Club's John Moxley and Claudio Castagnoli beat Dark Order's John Silver and Alex Reynolds in a good match. Post-match, BCC officially turned heel by continuing the attack on the Dark Order. Hangman Adam Page attempted to come out to make the save, but he was eventually jumped by the BCC as well. Jericho Appreciation Society also picked up a big win, defeating AR Fox and Top Flight in a fun trios match. Post-match, they challenged the House of Black for the AEW World Trios Championships, but instead got the Elite, who staked their claim for a rematch with House of Black. But Malachi Black and the boys, Brody Matthews and Brody King, along with Julia Hart, said that they decided to challenge both trios. So we got a three-way next week in Omega and Jericho's hometown of Winnipeg for the AEW World Trios Championships. I thought this was a solid follow-up to Revolution. What did you think? What was your highlight, low light from this week's Dynamite, Scott?
Highlight, there were really good moments from this show. For highlight, I'll go with the Blackpool Combat Club official turn. I think that was, long time coming, but also perfectly executed. And, now we have that big match next week. Low light. I'm so done with the spray paint, folks. I'm so done with it. I think it's so bad. It's so lame. Just doing like, oh, an L, because you're a loser. Get it? It's like, oh my God. Like what fake NWO over here. What are we doing? I think it's just and they ended Rampage with it this week too. And I was like, what? Why? What are we doing? Like this, I think the story itself is decent. I think there's been ups and downs, obviously, but spray paint, that's your big, like, that's how you leave your mark, is making people's clothes green. Really? Like, yeah. I don't enjoy it, but we should all just be happy that Jeff Jarrett's becoming the My World Champion. So
my world. Yes,
that's why they changed the name.
My World Champion, absolutely. That's big pop for me for that one. But I mean, I just get tickled off of thinking about that Tony Khan promo. I'm sorry. How many times did he say in Winnipeg next week? Like, I'm sorry. He said it so many times. It was hilarious to me. I could not stop laughing after saying the promo, and then I did it again on the AE Ramble this week, man. Oh man, I loved it. I loved it so much for the worst reasons possible. My highlight was the Bryan promo. That Bryan promo. It topped it. I don't know how he topped the promo that he did on the Go Home show, where he kind of chronologized his whole career and how winning the world championship was his new dream. I don't know how he topped that, but he did with this I'm Going Home promo. That was just great stuff. A great follow-up to one of his greatest matches of all time. So love that. And then the low light, QT Marshall. What are we doing? What are we doing?
To me, it comes down to, well, Powerhouse Hobbs is champion. That's what matters. That's what matters to me. That's what I've wanted for ever now, feels like. But I get like why people aren't loving QT Marshall being champion, or not champion. He's not. No, not
please
champion.
no. Please
being
no.
included, being involved. I get that. But that's, I think, the game that Tony Khan sometimes plays a little too dangerously, trying to protect everyone, right? And in doing so, you kind of sometimes make someone weak, aka Powerhouse Hobbs, by so it's a tough game because I think every company does it. Right, they try to keep people protected, but yeah, that was definitely a low light. I just needed to talk about the spray paint because it was on my mind, and it was on my mind after I watched Rampage. I was like, no, I can't let this go. I need to be upset.
We got a bunch of people who's just asking the question about why Negro Buck saying, oh God, here we go. Happy Hobbs won, but why the fuck is this charisma vacuum that is QT involved? We got Caden, who says Booker of the Year, QT Marshall. You know he booked it. You know he had to book it. And Safet bringing up QT beefing with Raj Giri from Wrestling Inc. That last night, oh my God. I did think we would top Tony Khan and Ariel Hawani beefing on Twitter, but that might have topped it. It was Raj Giri.
It was better than Rampage.
Who he won. He had won the Twitter beef, because for all the bad takes that I could say about Rajgiri in the past, that was a good take of saying that of QT Marshall, that was a bad choice on AEW Dynamite, and then QT retweeting him. It was just like, man, QT, you vanity searching and stuff. But then Raj deleted the tweet. So then he decides a couple of days later he's gonna pump up his chest and start calling out QT, and then QT with the knockout blow when he exposed the DMs. I was like, oh man. How did you turn this? What you learning from Ariel Hawani? How to turn a W into a L? What are we doing?
Yeah, that was entertaining, to say the least. Don't delete your tweets, man. That's just signaling defeat.
Yeah.
Like you
and never DM when you see y'all going back and forth.
No.
Never DM.
No.
Never DM. Especially when you put out a tweet, I'm going to sleep, and then you immediately DM'd him. By the timing of everything, by the timestamps, like you immediately DM'd him when you said you were going to sleep.
Didn't have that dog in him, I guess.
You gotta get that dog in you. Whoop, whoop, like Braun Breaker. Come on. We got Romeo. This is QT got charisma on Twitter.
That's the truth. That's the truth.
That's the truth, man. Come on, man. You had it. You had it.
His fight on Twitter made people think that QT might actually be in the right spot. He might actually be good with Powerhouse Hobbs. That's how good of work he did on Twitter last night.
That's how you improve it, man. He improved this game. He improved this game via Twitter. It was like the reverse Seth Rollins of 2019. Great stuff, QT. Great stuff. Coming out of Dynamite, had some news to discuss, and it is about the Elite. The Wrestling Observer newsletter reports that AEW is currently working to sign the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega to new long-term deals. They are hoping to get this done before their current deals expire. As previously noted, the Bucks deal is up at the end of the year. Omega's was supposed to be done in February, but the time was added after his hiatus due to injury. Tony Khan has gone on record and stated that he hopes that Omega will stay in AEW. Meltzer also wrote in the Wrestling Observer newsletter that he says with the Young Bucks, he feels because of the style that they do and the schedule, AEW would be more beneficial for them because they'd be working less dates. They get time to spend with their family. For Kenny Omega, he has no end of countless fresh opponents in WWE, and he doesn't have the family that the Young Bucks have, but it would close the door on him going to Japan and having matches in Japan that he had just reopened after his big matchup with Will Ospreay at Wrestle Kingdom 17. I think that we're both in agreement. We think from this point, 2024, do you think the Elite is still in AEW?
1000%. It's called All Elite Wrestling, people. Tony Khan is not letting these three go. He's not. And I think if it came push to shove, and if CM Punk was a limit for them, CM Punk would be gone to keep those three. Because CM Punk has nowhere else to go. He's not going to WWE. Okay? That's not happening. And I don't think that it would be the limit. I think it just comes down to them being smart business guys and saying, "Oh, let's see what we could get." That's how this business works. But Kenny Omega saying no to never going back to Japan. He already did that once, and I think that took a toll on him. Yeah. I don't think he's going to do that again. Now that they're in good graces again with New Japan, you could tell, through that whole thing with Ospreay and stuff, he loves that. He loves getting that opportunity. So I don't think he would give that up. And the Young Bucks, I think they are more likely to stay anyways because of all the things that Dave pointed out. But I just want to say this. Like, obviously they're trying to extend their contracts. Like, imagine like reporting anything else. Like, yeah, they actually aren't trying to extend them right now. It's like, and that's not a shot at Dave. It's just like, no. Did this need to be said?
Like, I don't know why it was like one of the bigger news things that they talked about out of the Observer newsletter. Right. It's like, yeah, that's what I assumed. I really want to know this one with what A-Shock says. Will Triple H see this and offer this deal to get the Elite to WWE or no? I think that Triple H will back up the Brinks truck because of the perception of all four of the EVPs that people hold responsible for the creation of AEW, even more than Tony Khan. The Elite get credit for AEW more because it was built on the back of what they did with All In. That I think that he would back up the Brinks truck for them, but I don't know if he'd be willing to say, Kenny, oh yeah, you can have your matches in Japan, and the Young Bucks, oh yeah, you can have a part-time schedule. I don't know if you go that far.
No, I think to get to the Elite, he's willing to go different. Like, I think he'd be willing to offer different contracts from what we're used to. And we saw that the first time he tried to sign them. But Triple H, if you're listening to this, leave them alone, please.
Yes.
Just let them go. Listen, I want them to make their money, but they have so much to do in AEW. I think this is a great point. He has the video game. The women's division too, to an extent, I'm sure still. And like you said, Young Bucks want to go back to New Japan. That is very true.
Hey, I credit Kenny for the latest Rio push. I credited Kenny. I'm giving Kenny the credit for that.
We should.
This is he pushed Riho. Come on, all day, every day. We're gonna talk about Rampage next, but yes, we got Caden who also says Kenny needs a part-time schedule. He can't work the house show loops. Yeah, no. He has that wear and tear. And that's why I don't think that they would put Kenny on the level that he deserves to be on with the rest of the best wrestlers that they have. Romeo saying that they should see what WWE has to offer. Who are we feeling? They probably already know with all the tampering. Selfishly, I want a lot of the new fresh matchups for the trio. There's none of those matches that I want to see more than CM Punk and FTR versus the Elite, though. That's the issue for me.
No, the only one I'd want to see is Roman and the Usos. New Day too, but I don't even know if Big E's ever gonna wrestle again, unfortunately. Yeah. So I think that's part of the problem. Because if Big E was healthy, I'd be like, absolutely, that's number one, but we still don't know. But I understand where you're coming from. But hear me out here. What about David Finlay?
David Finlay, though. Come on. That's the difference maker. That's the difference maker. Our wrestler of the week, David Finlay. Come on. What are we talking about here? Talking about other big stuff going on in AEW. Got to talk about the aforementioned leveling up of the All-Atlantic Championship. Fightful reports that the name change has been in the works for quite some time. Warner Brothers Discovery asks AEW for quote-unquote something big to promote Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Tony Khan had the idea to give the belt a level up to the AEW International Championship. He had a new belt made months ago to prepare for next week and promoting the film. AEW is reportedly always excited to promote things for WBD and have newsworthy events in association with them. They also wanted something newsworthy for their debut in Winnipeg and to increase the prestige of the title. Are you thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs in the middle for the change from All-Atlantic Championship to the international title, Scott?
I'm cool with international. I think it's like intercontinental in a lot of ways. It kind of fits that embodiment. Now I just need the belt to be defended outside of AEW again. I think that was kind of the charm of it. But it's gonna be the My World Championship, so what does it matter? Wasn't matter. You wanted to level up.
A second name change.
You want to level up. You crown Jeff Jarrett. That's how you get a level up. In all seriousness, though, how many belts does Tony Khan you think have just made ready to go? Because every title in this company except for the world title, I feel like it's been changed one way or the other. There's been 3 women's titles. All Atlantic's already getting changed. We know the TNT title has been changed numerous times.
I think the tag team titles haven't been changed.
That's true. The tag team titles have stuck, and obviously the trios haven't.
And the world title got changed with MJF.
That's a good point. So everything except for the tag titles has changed. I was like, I need a custom belt, and then you reminded me that MJF slightly changed the color on his, so that does count. But yeah, I guess I need more custom belts. I mean, my world championship. See, it's gonna be a guitar on it, right in the middle.
No, it's gonna be a guitar-shaped belt. That's it. We're
set. If that actually ever happened, you could never take the title off that, man.
and if you play the riff, it just plays my world. Romeo, just so you're aware, what Kenny is doing with the Fight Forever video game is not the same as being on the developmental team for WWE 2K. When Xavier Woods isn't even on the developmental team, I don't even think they're gonna offer Kenny that. So that was a good joke, but I don't think that could be a serious thing that you really thought.
They also want the game to be actually released, probably, so that'd be tough.
Yeah, you're like, if you lose Kenny, like this game is never coming out, and we'll get to what other news about that as well. Final note from Dynamite: Fightful Select had some additional details on Hobbs' big win of the TNT Championship. According to the report, AEW has been planning to have Hobbs win the title around this time for months. The report notes that all the title changes since Full Gear, with Darby Allin winning in January, Joe winning it back in February, Wardlow's win at Revolution, and now Hobbs on Dynamite, were all planned out ahead of time, including a note that before Darby's win, he recorded VTR with the title belt. This was said to be the end game of a big push plan for Hobbs, and the title is the first for Powerhouse Hobbs in his AEW career. I, for one, I don't like hot potato titles, but I don't mind because of how firmly intact all the other titles have been, that this one title is the one that always changes.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right there. I think we could have skipped the Wardlow title change though.
Like, I do agree. I do agree with that.
I think he could have easily beat Joe. We could have moved on, right? Like, I know Joe and him are technically supposed to be heels, but really, like, I wouldn't have batted an eye if because I'm sure Joe's not even going to be on TV for a while because he's doing the Ring of Honor stuff right now. So I don't think it would have been that big of a deal, but I get it. I get what Tony was going for. I'm just happy. Again, I'm just happy Powerhouse Hobbs champion. Now let's see what the reign is. Give it 6 months at least. Just let him dominate, and then you hopefully have a big baby face built up to beat him, whether that's a Jungle Boy or Takeshita, right? Someone like that.
I think Takeshita, because of how their exchange during the Face of the Revolution matchup, I think that could be seen as like the tease and the start of everything. So I'd be down for Takeshita. Yeah, they did. It was just like it made me realize how big Takeshita was because of how he was battering with Powerhouse Hobbs. Yeah. But speaking of battering, there was some of that on AEW Rampage last night. The show featured Riho once again going at it with Nyla Rose in a really good main event. Riho defeating her greatest rival in her AEW career in this third installment of their matchup. Post-match, Nyla and Marina Shafir jumped Riho to leave her laying, only for the Outcasts. They are now they're not the Outsiders, they're Outcasts. So I need Bob's Over Baghdad to be their theme song, B.O.B. And I'm putting the thing out. Unless you plan to bang, I'm saying Bob's Over Baghdad for Saraya and Tony Storm and Ruby Soho to come out to attack Riho and do Scott's favorite thing, spray paint her. We had Darby Allin set his goal. He set his sights on a new goal that he said that would become clear next week, while Jungle Boy put every male champion on notice. Are we teasing the eventual 4 Pillars 4-way maybe? Konosuke Takeshita got another big win, beating Preston Vance in a solid matchup. And we also had Sammy Guevara in the opener defeating Action Andretti in a super fun matchup here after interference from Daniel Garcia. I enjoyed that Sammy Guevara matchup better than their first match. I felt like this one was better, only for Action Andretti with that leap off the top rope with the big splash through the table. That was great. What did you think overall of Rampage last night?
If you missed it, you didn't miss much, but it was a good night of action. Good matches. I enjoyed seeing Riho get the main event. I think that was kind of because Riho and Nyla Rose, that's a world title feud that we've seen. So it made sense to have the main event. And I know those things don't always matter per se, but them getting that spot made sense. And I think Takeshita could have just beat Preston Vance normal. I don't think he needed to roll him up, but that's kind of what they're going with the Don Callis story, is that he taught him that. Yeah. So it's like, all right, that's fine. But I mean, it's Preston Vance, folks. Like he could beat him 1, 2, 3, no question.
Should have just gave him the knee. Just gave him the knee. Exactly. Call it a day. Come on.
Exactly. But fine night of action.
Indeed. Kaden with a good shout talking about, I guess, the next person to who should dethrone Powerhouse Hobbs. Ricky Starks is a good shout as well because they do have a little bit of unfinished business. We got Kaden who says Takeshita can beat Double J and bring the title to Japan for a few minutes. I would be down for that as well. Wouldn't mind that. That would answer that question for us. Annika saying they are not cool enough for that song. Hey, Annika. Jane is a cool song, and they got the rights for that. So, hey, cool song for not hip-hop fans, but if they want to embrace the hip-hop fans, give me Bob's Over Baghdad. Pay that price to Andre 3000 and Big Boy. We got Frantic World who says, I went to see that 4-way matchup for the AEW World title. I felt like that. This episode made me feel like that because you have MJF as the world champion. You have Darby setting his sights on a new goal. Jungle Boy's calling out all the male champions, and you have Sammy Guevara getting a big win. It feels like they could do it. They could.
It's interesting. It's definitely an interesting idea because I don't know if that main event's a pay-per-view.
I can see it main eventing, like if you want to bring importance to the Battle of the Belts, there's one coming up in April. I would love that. I know that's a joke.
That was a good one. Importance to the Battle of the Belts. Come on. That was a good one. That could be you got me.
I broke Scott, ladies and gentlemen. I'm happy with myself. It's because we're going on a full year, and this show has not been important, not a one time.
It gets less important. It feels like they were starting to go up towards the end of last year, and then they like this one in January. It's like never mind, just kidding.
I don't even remember it. I think it was the same. I think the Rampage that night was good, but I don't really remember Battle of the Belts too much.
Orange Cassidy was definitely on it.
Yeah.
Was that against Kip Sabian?
Kip Sabian, yes. I think that was the main event. No
wonder why I didn't want to remember it.
So give you the Men in Black flash. News coming out of Rampage earlier this week. We got a new report on an update on Brian Cage's contract status with All Elite Wrestling. Fightful Select report. Oh my God, the title that our producer, let's make Melissa Santos happy. Fightful Select reports that Cage's deal was set to expire shortly, and while AEW hoped to extend the deal due to his time off from injury, Cage is said to have pushed back on that due to his interest in exploring free agency. AEW and Cage have agreed to stay in business with each other through the end of this month, which will include ROH Supercard of Honor. Cage's contract was originally set to expire at some point between late January and mid-February, and that AEW did offer Cage a contract extension, which is not yet off the table. Cage has had some big names in the company backing him, including Chris Jericho, who has made publicly and expressed his appreciation for Cage's work and hopes that he is re-signed. The site notes that WWE has stayed interested in Cage and are open to conversations with him. Cage most recently worked AEW Dark and Dark Elevation, with the episodes airing this week. So he is still with AEW. It seems like they're shaping up for a six-man match at Supercard of Honor for him and the Gates of Agony or the Embassy. But my question to you, we asked it about the Elite, we asked it about MJF. This time next year, do you see Cage in WWE or AEW?
I have a lot less inspired answer of I almost don't care.
That ain't the worst answer.
Brian Cage can work for whoever he wants. I'm still not gonna be like, let's go. Yeah, this guy should be, world champion. I just don't think that. I think he's good. I'm not saying he's an untalented man in any respect, but ever since he left Team Taz, it's been like meh.
Yeah.
I can't see what he adds if they keep him. Right? Like good point, if he stays in Ring of Honor, that's great. But if WWE offers him enough money, why would he do that? Ring of Honor is in front of, a handful of people every week in Universal Studios when maybe he wants to go and expand. He's not gonna do anything great wherever he goes. I'm gonna be honest, he's not going to be a world champion. That's just not happening.
I can
I
see
don't
him
think
being the NXT champion.
Yeah, sure, definitely. I mean, I'm sure him and Braun Breaker could have a interesting match.
Tear it up.
I'm just not a I'm not a big Brian Cage guy. I love Team Taz. Loves Team Taz. Still sad they're
Me too.
gone. But yeah, it I'm gonna go with no. I don't think he's in AEW at the end of the year.
I don't think so either. I think it's more likely we see him in the CWC than the Universal Studios in the future. Someone who is very interested in where he will go between AEW and WWE is Kommander, who worked last week on AEW Dynamite. As we previously reported, it's believed that WWE is interested in him. According to the latest Wrestling Observer newsletter, WWE actually contacted the Luchador both before and after his appearance in the ladder match on Dynamite last week. However, WWE did not offer him a contract at the time. The purpose was to bring him in for a meeting so they could see him. WWE has previously wanted other masked wrestlers that appeared on Dynamite, as Bandito confirmed he had talked with them. He eventually signed with AEW. Meanwhile, WWE did eventually hire Dragon Lee after he worked AEW and ROH without a contract. In a new interview with Sports Illustrated, Kommander addressed the rumors of interest from the two major promotions in the US, and on reports of WWE and AEW interested in him. He said it's very humbling to hear that people want to know where I'm going next. That is a huge honor to be spoke of in such a manner. I came from nothing. I had absolutely nothing, and I did this because it is what I love to do. I understand that my career could be just like my rope walk. It could be a great success or it could be a failure. No matter what happens, I'm always going to get back up. I never did this for the fame. I do it out of love. Whatever comes next is a blessing. This seems like the theme of this episode, Scott, of me asking you this question. Where do you see Kommander going? AEW and WWE, as this is kind of the rubber match between WWE and AEW of max wrestlers, because they were able to retain Bandito for AEW, but then WWE signed up Dragon Lee. Who's going to win the rubber match with the third luchador here?
I don't know if he would work in WWE, right? Because he doesn't have the charisma, say, of a Mystico, the original Sin Cara, who obviously flopped in WWE, which still absolutely stuns me because I've watched Mystico and like he's so good. So I don't know what happened.
It was because of your Twitter account I started watching Fantastica Mania, and that was the biggest thing that I got from Fantastica Mania. I was like, Mystico's still good. He's still really good. What happened?
Right. And it's like, I don't think Kommander has that charisma. He's great. He's great in the ring. That goes without saying. And I don't think he's like a Dragon Lee where, Dragon Lee has a name he was established for years now. I also think he might be maybe the best in the lucha side of things. There's a lot of great luchadors today. And, we've always heard that, well, they're trying to find their next Rey Mysterio. Well, Dragon Lee is going to get the first, second, and third shot because I'm sure they signed him to tons of money. So I almost hope Kommander stays with AEW because that gives him the freedom, much like Bandito, to do all these other dates and do all these other shows and keep getting better because he's still really young. I don't want WWE taking all these guys and then I'm just, they're the Lucha House Party and stuff like that. I don't want that, right? Like I think Kommander's ceiling in WWE would be a Kalisto. It wouldn't be much higher than that. Dragon Lee, I think, can get to the highest of highs. I don't think that would work for Kommander.
I agree. He's just, he's really young. He still needs to develop. I would love to see him more in AAA. He had a great match earlier this year with Jack Cartwheel in AAA that not a lot of people have seen, that really showed his potential. He's great on the GCW shows as well. I don't know how well signing with AEW will do with his GCW dates, as we got the last news point to talk about from AEW. GCW is opposing AEW's trademark of Fight Forever for their upcoming video game. With the two sides in settlement talks, Wrestling Inc. Reports that paperwork was filed with the USPTO opposing the trademark for the Fight Forever. The paperwork was filed on March 1st and asks for a time extension to oppose the trademark, noting potential opposers believes that good cause are established for the request by 1, the potential opposer needs additional time to investigate this claim, 2, the potential opposer needs additional time to confer with counsel, and 3, the potential opposer is engaged in settlement discussions with the applicant. GCW is asking for an extension until May 31st. This was so weird how this popped up out of nowhere. Like, we've known about Fight Forever for a full year. Why are you now just opposing this? I don't understand this at all if you're GCW.
I guess Brett Lauderdale's angry that he took all the people that were worth seeing from his shows. Here's what I'll say: is this game ever going to come out? Like, can we just let the game come out, please? Like, I just want I want the damn game to come out. Like, I don't even know if it's good at this point, but at least just like let's have it come out. I don't think this will be a big deal after like a week or two. Like, I think it'll be forgotten. I'm sure GCW's probably legitimately like angry that Tony Khan took the people away to try and make sure they can use the name in the future for charity shows.
Charity shows, says Kaden.
Okay.
So,
well, yeah, that makes sense, but I don't know. It's just a game. Just like Fight Forever is a term that's been used in wrestling for years now, right?
Yeah. That's why I don't get it. I understand if they want to use it for a show, if they can work out some mutual
can everyone use it?
Yeah, like everyone should be able to use it. This is something that the fans created more than anything. But yeah, please. This AEW Fight Forever video game is becoming the Chronic 2 of professional wrestling video games. like it's ever going to come out. You also had, besides a Rampage last night, you also had SmackDown. The show featured more bloodline drama as Jey Uso explained that he didn't have a choice in choosing his family over Sami Zayn after Paul Heyman thanked him for what he did. Roman Reigns was conspicuous by his absence, but Jimmy Uso did call out Cody Rhodes, who came out to interrupt the Usos, leading to hooded Sami Zayn, coming through the crowd to attack Jey, which gave us a huge brawl between all four men to end the show. Very hot segment, despite I did think that it needed just a touch of Roman Reigns. We also had Drew McIntyre and Sheamus both scored pinfalls during the 5-way number one contenders match, which led to Adam Pearce making a winner-takes-all matchup for next week to determine who faces Gunther for the IC title at WrestleMania. I smell a Smoz finish again, ladies and gentlemen. And then we had the big announcement after weeks and weeks of waiting. Rey Mysterio was announced as the first inductee in this year's WWE Hall of Fame, becoming the second ever active superstar on the roster since Ric Flair in 2008 to join the WWE Hall of Fame for the year, which led to Dominic Mysterio and the Judgment Day coming out to interrupt and talk trash. Judgment Day then went on to beat Legado del Fantasma before Dom told Rey that he wished Eddie was his father and went to attack his dad, who moved out of the way, but once again refused to fight him. It was a good episode as far as like they had their goals. They set it. Cody's firmly into the bloodline story now. But most of all, what did you think about Rey being the first inductee into this year's Hall of Fame, Scott?
I was stunned. I was like, whoa. I was like, whoa, time out. I was like, so I started thinking of all these theories. I was like, is he retiring? Is he leaving? Is he like, I was thinking all these things because why would they do it with him being active? And not only active, but still really, really good. It's not like he's slowing down in any way. It's not like Ric Flair, who they were making retire, right? Rey is not in that boat. So yeah, I was shocked. But good for obviously first, I know they just make the decisions, but if we're going based off of how we go off of it, obvious first ballot, arguably the greatest or most notable masked wrestler here in the States. I'm not going to say in the world because there are countless guys who, that deserve that respect, especially in Mexico. But undoubtedly he's a Hall of Famer. I was stunned because I did not expect this one. I was like, oh, it's gonna be Batista, or of course everyone was talking about Muda, and it was Rey Mysterio.
I was legitimately shocked. I just had the wow, okay. My first thought though is that this whole Dominic matchup that they seem to be building to for WrestleMania, he's always said he wants that to be his last match. He said versing Dominic, that would be my choice for the retirement match. So my thought process are we gonna get Dom versus Rey with Dom winning and he unmasks Rey? So this is the last time that WWE would be able to induct him with him wearing the mask.
Sure, that's a good point. I didn't think about that. Wow. Oh man.
That's the only reason that really makes sense to me to induct him now instead of after the Dominic matchup, which would have made more sense for like next year's WrestleMania weekend. And then you could do like the Batista, you could do Great Muta this year, and it's in California. It makes a number of sense on different levels, and it's also playing into this whole Dominic rivalry as well. But I think LA Times did report that Conan is going to be the one who inducts him into the Hall of Fame, which also makes a world of sense. He's known Rey since he was 11 years old, and he's the reason that Rey came to the U.S. for WCW back in the day.
Yeah, it's all great for him, obviously, and oh man, your idea really got to me. I was not expecting to think of I'll be upset, obviously, but if this is Rey's decision, then good for him, right? I mean, this might be the equivalent of Baron Corbin for Kurt Angle, but that's fine. That's fine. It's your son, so I guess
don't do that to Dom, the ex-con Dom. He's doing the great character work. He is, but there's a lot of people I'd like to see Rey be retired by. I can't say Dom Mysterio's at the top, right? Like you want the passing of a torch type of situation, I think, with Rey, and I don't know. They just signed the guy that you would think would be the man getting the torch of Dragon Lee. So like I wanted that match to happen. If this is it for Rey Mysterio, then bravo, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. We will have to wait and see, indeed. But the big talk of this week was not having to do with Rey until last night. It was more to do with WWE's latest big move as they prepare for a sale of the company, and it's reportedly in talks with gambling regulators in 2 states in order to legalize betting on match results. CNBC reports that the company is working with EY and accounting firm that has worked with the Emmys and the Oscars in order to secure match results in order to try and convince regulators that there's no chance results will leak to the public, which would make undercutting betting possibilities. On Thursday, Fightful added additional details. They reported that WWE has registered with the Indiana Gaming Commission and is listed on their list of published sports wagering registers. However, the Colorado Division of Gaming told CNBC that it has not and is not currently considering allowing sports betting wagers on WWE matches and said that Colorado has a statute right now that prohibiting bets on events with fixed or predicted outcomes, including the Oscars. The Michigan Gaming Control Board issued a statement quoting their executive director as saying any request for inclusion in Michigan's sports wagering catalog must be submitted to the MGCB by a Michigan licensed operator or platform provider, and the agency has not received a formal request regarding WWE events wagering. The WWE should work with the gaming industry if it wishes to bring a proposal before the MGCB. The statement also said that a third-party consultant approached the board over a year ago about a proposal to add WWE events to the wagering catalog, but no further information has been provided. In a response to a tweet by Wrestling Observer Newsletter's Dave Meltzer, Lance Storm stated that he said, and I quote, "Insane. Finishes are crucial aspects of storytelling. It would destroy the creative process, and you'd have to go back to a single booker who everyone trusts and will keep his mouth shut. Writers can't write or collaborate if they can't discuss the finishes." So it's something that would have levels upon levels of kind of consequences for how WWE tells its story, how it produces its matches. Do you think this is a realistic possibility?
No. I say no, but so they do the DraftKings thing already, right? They do the like kind of guess how many finishers and stuff like that. I just can't see how you could change your entire business, right? And just for gambling, if that makes sense. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think you can have Triple H be the guy to know everything and the only things, but I don't know if it's that worth it, truthfully. I just don't. I think what they have with DraftKings is fine. I think that's enough. But the point on the Oscars makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But these things are going to leak out. This is pro wrestling. That's never going to stop. So to me, it's not possible because of that alone.
Yeah, and even with the Oscars, sometimes the results leak out for that too, or
Right.
so. Yeah, I think it's very interesting, but I don't see how that would stick and be conducive for what WWE or how the storytelling has formed with Triple H under power. If it was somebody else under power and he was ripping up scripts every day, then there's a possibility that you could get ahead of the betting odds and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, CNBC also reported that the company is set to hold next month hold meetings for potential buyers for the first round of bids for the company. The report did not provide any further information. The report reiterated that WWE has said, which is that there is no assurance that a sale will happen. The possible sale of WWE has, of course, been a big topic in 2023, with Comcast, Disney, Amazon, and others speculated on as potential buyers. It has been reported that that Vince McMahon is seeking as much as $9 billion in a sale, with the current market value believed to be about $6 billion. Do you think that we're going to see a sale? Let's give it, they said this year, so let's give it to December. Do you think we will see a sale of WWE this year?
I do. I think this is how you kind of do any sale. Listen, I've watched Shark Tank. Okay. I've watched Shark Tank. So I'm obviously an expert at this.
Yes.
You start really high and you're willing to come down, and hopefully you can meet in the middle and get a little more money than expected. That's kind of how this goes. I do expect a sale. I don't know if I'm going to love the sale. I'm admittedly kind of scared about the sale. But I do think it's coming. But I think the interesting about like the meeting for the first bids is like we've heard everyone's out, so who's actually in, except for Saudi Arabia, right? It's like who's in to make first bids? Is it just them, or is it like there's some secret entity, or getting in there and making a bid? Like that's the interesting part. So I'm cautiously excited to see how this goes. I'm not optimistic. I'm excited just to see where this nonsense goes, because that's the thing with wrestling, right? Even out of the ring, it's beyond entertaining with something like this. But the sales starts in April. Okay.
Yep, next month is when they're gonna meet with the potential buyers. So we shall see. We shall see. I think Saudi and Comcast have to be kind of the leaders as far as.
Hoping for Comcast.
Yeah. I mean, Comcast is the one that makes the most sense. They're already on
Yeah.
Peacock. They're already on USA Network. It just makes a whole world of sense. But besides all of that, WWE is preparing to take a lot of their premium live events to other countries and other places outside of the US. And this includes WWE has announced that this year's Backlash is going to be taking place in San Juan, Puerto Rico, with Bad Bunny set to host the event. The event takes place on May 6th at the Cluso de Puerto Rico Jose Miguel Arato. I tried my best. This will be the first pay-per-view in Puerto Rico since New Year's Revolution back in 2005. Bunny has previously competed at both WrestleMania and the Royal Rumble, and he said in a quote about his hosting, he said, in 2005, when I was a kid, I wasn't able to attend New Year's Revolution. He says 18 years later, WWE returns to the island with a massive event, and this time I won't miss it. Triple H added, we're excited to bring Backlash to San Juan as the demand for WWE premium live events outside of the continental United States continues to grow. Bad Bunny is one of the world's most popular entertainers, and nowhere is that more evident than in his native Puerto Rico. On that note, the Wrestling Observer newsletter have reported that the state government of Western Australia is currently negotiating with WWE for a major stadium event in the country. WWE has previously held stadium events in the country before, most notably Melbourne for the two of them, including Super Showdown in 2018. While the show has not been announced, it is likely that it will be in Perth, which has hosted UFC events in the past. So this is now where the point that after WrestleMania, the next event in the United States will be SummerSlam in Detroit at Ford Field, but all of their shows are either out of the country or in a stadium. This is really kind of revamping and making all of these premium live events seem more important. What do you think about Backlash, which has historically been a B pay-per-view, being in Puerto Rico this year, Scott?
It's exciting, right? Because it makes Backlash feel like it might be more important than we've really seen in a long time. I'm all for international pay-per-views. I think it just adds a different dynamic. You know, the crowds are going to be red hot for them. And right, when you're making record money on your week-to-week shows, right? It's like, okay, we could go elsewhere and make record money there now too, right?
Yeah.
Crazy that's not till SummerSlam though that PLE is not in the on them, you know, here. Right? It's like it's unthinkable because we went how long without one outside of the US, and now we're having months and months at a time.
Clash at the Castle changed the game, it seems like.
It did, and for the good reason. Every pay-per-view feeling like a big deal is cool to me, truthfully. And I like the Australia one coming in too. I think Backlash is great because, and also, by the way, how lucky is WWE that Bad Bunny loves their company? Like,
exactly.
My God, it has worked so well for them. They even got him in their damn video game. Think of all the people that are going to buy this video game to be Bad Bunny. It's going to be a lot more than I think people.
We had Fred Durst back in the day. Why not Bad Bunny?
Exactly. But it's exciting. It's exciting because these crowds are going to be the best part of each show, no matter what.
Yeah, that's what I'm most excited about, and it makes me feel like they should save that Cody, Sammy, and Kevin versus the Bloodline. Save that for Backlash. That would be coming off of last year's Backlash that had the Bloodline versus Drew McIntyre and RK Bro. I think that's the type of like big type of multi-man matchup where they don't have to blow off another title match at Backlash. They could do it like that. I would love that as well.
I'm all for the PWG trios.
Exactly. That's what it was at Backlash. Thank you. I've been telling everybody. They basically had a PWG trios matchup.
Yeah.
Speaking of the bloodline, WWE Raw this week, they did 1.8 million viewers. The show featured Jey Uso finally making his decision after Sami Zayn defeated Jimmy Uso in the main event by super kicking Sami after a hug and choosing his family in the bloodline over Sami Zayn. After months and months, weeks of questions, he finally answered it before Cody Rhodes came down to make the save for Zayn to end the show. You also had Seth Rollins and Logan Paul. They had a very good promo exchange where they set up their WrestleMania showdown after Logan knocked out Seth to end the segment. Trish Stratus, Lita, and Becky Lynch challenged Damage Control to a 6-woman tag team matchup at WrestleMania. And then you also had John Cena making his WWE return, coming out and completely verbally destroying Austin Theory on the mic in his hometown of Boston after the U.S. champion challenged him for WrestleMania, with Cena accepting. What did you think about the Cena promo exchange, which has got a lot of talk? Also, Cena endorsing Cody Rhodes as well, as you just saw there. But what did you think about this verbal roasting of Austin Theory by John Cena?
Cena's my guy, folks. Okay, I love John Cena. He almost got me to go to Raw. He was this close. He almost got me there. But this is the type of promo that either makes Austin Theory or ends him for good, right? We've seen this. We've seen Wade Barrett go one direction. We've seen Roman Reigns go the other direction. And maybe it also comes down to booking and how someone's pushed too.
Baron Corbin was another one that Cena murked on the mic.
Yes, and we know how Baron Corbin has turned out. And it comes down to if Austin Theory ultimately wins. Rowan won. Wade Barrett didn't. Right? That's also the difference. You know, Baron Corbin didn't. Baron Corbin got probably everything that could have went badly for him happened, from, you know, cashing in and getting rolled up by Jinder Mahal to then losing to Cena at SummerSlam. It all comes down to Theory's delivery from here on out, because Cena sold the match. Cena sold me a match I didn't think was. I didn't think Austin Theory was worthy of the match, but Cena sold it by pretty much saying, "You're not worthy of this, but you made the biggest mistake of your life," and I'm excited, right? Like, what's not to like? John Cena's wrestling at WrestleMania in a singles match in front of the world. Like, I don't know what Austin Theory can do to like show that this is why he has this spot. Because I think they've done a good job at recovering him after the selfie stuff and whatnot.
Yeah.
But he's still missing something. But if anyone's going to bring it out of him, it will be John Cena.
Yeah. I just think it's hilarious that he said, "You're the ruthless aggression version of me." That ruthless aggression version of John Cena that only lasted 4 months, while Theory has been with WWE for 4 years. Like, I was like, that's one of the most disrespectful things he said. I just didn't like if you beat me, you still lose everything because you have to be in front of the Raw after WrestleMania crowd. He's gonna have to be in front of the Raw WrestleMania crowd regardless. So I was like, I didn't understand that one. Yeah,
that was a weird one. I think his point behind it was, you're gonna have to prove, even if you win, you deserve that spot.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it goes beyond the Raw after WrestleMania crowd, but it does make me think if they have an angle set up for that night now, like for something, they're playing to that. So say Theory wins, what is Austin Theory facing that next night? Right? Is it him being dumb and doing an open challenge and losing to someone getting called up? Is it, I don't know. I really don't know. Is it Jay White walking through the door, laying this guy out?
Could be that.
it's interesting, but there's a reason he brought up Raw after WrestleMania. I don't think it's just because of the crazy crowd. That's going to be part of the story. Maybe Cena wins and right, it does an open challenge the night after. Who knows? But it was an overall good promo, and they sold me on the match, which again, biggest accomplishment of the entire segment.
Exactly, that is true. Vince McMahon was the main topic of discussion, though, coming out of Monday Night Raw, as Vince McMahon was reportedly backstage at WWE Raw this week. Fightful Select reports that several WWE talent have confirmed that the chairman was at the show in Boston. There's no word from them on why he was there, even though PW Insider also confirmed it and said that it was said that he was there to visit John Cena, who was scheduled for the show. This is the first time he was backstage at a WWE live event since July 2022. Several people said that McMahon looked different, quote unquote, backstage. Dave Meltzer reported more details on McMahon's backstage return on Tuesday's Wrestling Observer Radio. According to Meltzer, McMahon was in the gorilla position all night during the show, but he was reportedly not barking orders at anyone. Meltzer also added that he was told that McMahon was only there to visit John Cena, who appeared on the show. And while there was that was the given reason for McMahon's return, Meltzer stated that there is more to it than that. Additionally, PW Insider had more details. According to PW Insider's report, McMahon was never scheduled to make an appearance on the show, and he was not there to take over WWE's creative department or run the Raw television broadcast. PW Insider's report also says that everyone was told McMahon was there to visit Cena as well. In terms of how the taping was run, PW Insider notes that it was the usual production and executive team running things as usual, and also that Vince McMahon reportedly had grown out a mustache. Fightful Select also released a report with more details on McMahon's return. According to the report, those backstage said it was only a matter of time before they saw him again backstage. However, Fightful's report noted that the talent who previously claimed that McMahon was back in the WWE creative department doubled down on their beliefs after McMahon resurfaced at Raw. After the report surfaced, WWE sources denied the initial claim, and it was reported that he looked different and was sporting a mustache while he was backstage. According to Fightful's update, McMahon had dyed his hair and is said to have a very small mustache. Multiple talents reportedly described McMahon's mustache as looking similar to Gomez Addams from the Addams Family. His appearance was said to be a hot topic of discussion backstage. One person in WWE has reportedly known McMahon for 20 years, claimed that his new look was more drastic and more of a shock than him getting his head shaved. No real photos of McMahon's new look have emerged. This is just a very well done Photoshop by Romeo here. With regards to McMahon sitting at the gorilla position, he was said to have not been shy about saying hello and greeting talent. Also, the talent and staff members who spoke to Fightful said that they did not say that McMahon was providing anything in the way of instructions, feedback, or orders that they noticed. It said that many believed that McMahon was specifically there because John Cena was booked on the show. In contrast, when McMahon returned to power in WWE earlier this year, there was reportedly more panic backstage, and also the reaction backstage when he appeared on SmackDown after the Wall Street Journal report surfaced was discussed. Fightful indicated that there wasn't a great deal of panic from those they heard from at the show. And one talent told Fightful the big tell is if he is at SmackDown, which he reportedly it's not been said if he was or not last night. Talent and staff were said to have not been prepared or briefed about McMahon's return before or after the show. Several WWE higher-ups were also not made aware he was in attendance at the show, and one higher-up informed Fightful that they wish they were clued in about McMahon's visit due to the nature of the last 9 months that have occurred in WWE. What do you think about Mustache Vince, the McMahon? We've been calling it McMahon Succession. Now it's Mustache McMahon McSession going on in WWE since January.
The inevitable is happening. That is just the truth. It starts with one visit. Oh, I'm just here for John. Sure. And then he's there again. And then he's there at, WrestleMania, and then he's there at Raw after WrestleMania, and then oh, you know what? I'll stick around for SmackDown. I'll just do the whole week. It's it stinks because no one wants to see Vince McMahon's WWE anymore. They don't. No one does. I have a lot of complaints about Triple H's WWE, but it's been so much better.
Yes.
It's watchable. That's my start. I can watch Raw and SmackDown and enjoy parts of it. I rarely could have done that with Vince McMahon's. But man, I hate that this guy's back. All right, like I hate that this guy's back. He can have a mustache. He cannot have a mustache. I don't want him anywhere near this company anymore. But we unfortunately have to deal with it. I'd like to think that seeing this season of Succession's the last season. I'd like this to also be the last time I have to hear about Vince McMahon, but that's not going to happen. So I can only get my hopes up, but I don't want him around.
It's all dread. It's like a black cloud that's been looming. My good friend Romeo, who's in the chat, has been asking, "Are you gonna have Vince McMahon in the thumbnail every week?" Well, they keep coming up with news for him, so why do we always have to put him in the thumbnail? That's why he's with a mustache this week. Make it a little bit different.
Yeah, on my show every week, I'm like, can we stop talking about this guy? But he does something every week. We don't have a choice.
Every week,
we don't have a choice.
Romeo saying nobody was bold enough to take a picture. Vince still got that fear factor over people. Yes, indeed.
I think someone took a picture. I think people are scared of posting the picture.
Probably so. You know, somebody was like, "Oh, I didn't do anything. What are you talking about? What are you?"
Maybe someone jokingly took a selfie with him, be like, "Oh, Vince, you're here," and they'd be like, "Yeah." I'm sure Cena's got a picture. Cena, let's see it.
Come on, Cena. You can send me. You can send me in the DMs. We're friends on Twitter. Come on, we can make it happen. Fightful Select had another report talking about WWE sources were said to be happy with this week's edition of Monday Night Raw and how the show unfolded, with John Cena adding familiar eyes to this week's broadcast. This week's show saw an increase in ratings and viewership, averaging 1.827 million viewers and a 5.2 rating in the 18 to 49 demo. PW Insider reports that the reason John Cena will be able to work WrestleMania 39 this year is because his movie schedule actually lined up with him being back in the US. He just completed filming on Ricky Stansky and last weekend in Canada, and he then started shooting the movie Grand Theft Auto on Monday just before appearing at that night's Raw. He will continue to film that movie while making his appearances for WWE leading up to the event. And the Wrestling Observer newsletter also confirmed that Cena will be available for WWE TV over the next several weeks. Cena is scheduled to face Austin Theory for the US title at the WrestleMania event. Speaking of WrestleMania, though, the Wrestling Observer newsletter reports that the tag team title match will still happen at the event, with Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler still expected to challenge. Both matches are currently scheduled for the event, with the tag team champions working both nights, even after Trish Stratus and Lita and Becky Lynch challenge Damage Control for the 6-woman tag. They still think that that tag team title match is going to happen, according to Wrestling Observer newsletter. The only reason it might not happen is if Ronda Rousey isn't able to compete. She suffered a legit injury in her arm, which is believed to be a hairline fracture. She aggravated the injury in training, and WWE decided to keep her out of action for a little bit of time. As of the middle of this week, it's believed that she would be able to compete. So what's your percentage, 0 to 100, on Ronda Rousey competing at WrestleMania and the tag team title match actually happening?
90%. I feel
you're going 90.
Yeah, I think. Well, they just added her to the MSG show. I think
that's true. Yeah.
Show?
Yeah, it is.
So I think that's kind of a good sign of like she's going to be good to go. They could pull her off of that, but Ronda's dealt with some harder hits, I think, than a hairline fracture in her arm. They don't have to put the titles on them if she's that hurt and needs to go on, but I'm sure she can get through it. That's why she has Shayna there. That's the beauty of smoke and mirrors of a tag team match. But double dose of Becky. How about that? Good for Becky.
Hey, We went a couple of months ago. We were worried Becky wasn't going to have a match at WrestleMania or what her match was going to be, and now she might be on both nights. So more power to her. I give it up for Becky if we are looking to that, and she gets to be in the ring with Ronda, what she didn't want a couple of months ago. She gets that at WrestleMania.
Yeah, she gets to be in the match with everyone. It sounds like
it's like we'll give you Lita and Trish, but you also got to be in that match with Ronda that we really wanted to do, and you changed our mind. This week the final WWE show to talk about is NXT Roadblock. They did 624,000 viewers. The show featured Dijak beating Tony D'Angelo in a surprisingly good jailhouse street fight. You also had Braun Breaker and the Creed brothers defeating Indus Sher in a 6-man tag. Later in the show, Breaker challenged and called out Carmelo Hayes, with the two of them having a pretty good promo exchange to set up their main event match for Stand and Deliver. And then you had the main event with Roxanne Perez defeating Meiko Satomura in a very well done main event to retain the NXT Women's Championship. Post-match, Shawn Michaels is at it again, booking his career as Perez collapsed like she was Shawn Michaels in 1995 after taking some insecurities due to the devastating kicks from Meiko to Roxanne's head throughout the matchup, and she was stretchered out to end the show. I saw you talking about this match with Meiko and Roxanne. What did you think, and what did you think about the post-match angle with Shawn Michaels once again booking his career like he did with the Toxic Attraction breakup, mirroring the Rockers?
So the match was really solid. It felt like the first match, though. It didn't feel like it was going to be the final match, right? And maybe that's playing to, well, this time, at Stand and Deliver, I'm not going to get knocked out. I'm not going to pass out. I want you again. And I think that's the best way to go, because she only won via roll-up. It's not like she won and that's what I was hoping for, because this is the biggest match that women's division has right now. I think Roxanne Perez is unbelievable. Like, as someone that is so deeply into the Joshi scene and really women's wrestling as a whole, she's as good a prospect as there is in wrestling. And that's why, like, I think she's already top 5 women's wrestler in WWE. That's how good I think she is, which is saying a lot. Because they have a lot of talent. But I think in ring wise, I think she's that good already. The angle itself, I'm not loving it. I'm not going to sit here and say I loved it. I don't love her passing out. But if it leads to that championship match, I'm okay.
Harlem says hi. He said hi. You're saying hi to everybody else in the chat. She's telling everybody else in the chat to say hi as well. But I mean, yeah, Roxanne is really good. I've always thought she was good since she was Roxy, and she's improved even more with this NXT run. I just think they teased it 2 weeks ago that it might be Tiffany Stratton that I think gets the shot at Stand and Deliver. But I agree with you. I wouldn't mind if Meiko and her have a third match because they're 1-1 now.
Right. It would be bold to, like, don't get me wrong. I think Tiffany Stratton, Roxanne are their 2 top women's prospects, respectively. You have Sol Ruka there. You have other. That's what I think I like most about NXT, is that they have really good prospects, obviously. But I think it would be bold to put on that Stand and Deliver show. It's, you know what that match feels like? It feels like Carmelo and Braun Breaker, but without the entire work to get there, if that makes sense.
I agree with you. I feel like Tiffany should be the challenger if you're trying to end Roxanne's run. Not because it's like the big show. I think it should be on a big show, maybe like in the summer, if they're going to do a big summer show around SummerSlam weekend. That's when you want to take the title off of Roxanne. It feels too early in her run to go to Tiffany just yet, in my opinion. I agree.
Yeah, and it's a big match when it happens because they're both future stars. But I mean, Tiffany just came back too.
Yeah.
Like, she's still working through some things. Like, if you watch her matches, she's had some good ones, but she's had some, clunky ones. She's still trying to figure it out. I think moving her to that match is a little bold. It's have Satomura in there with Roxanne, have them kill it on Stand and Deliver. Maybe that's Mako's last match. I don't know what's going on with Mako. But and then move to the Tiffany Stratton stuff down the line.
Wouldn't mind Mako getting called up to the main roster. I'm just be honest. I would love Mako to be on the main roster. Annika saying my dad likes Mako, so please keep her and put the title on her too. I mean, I wouldn't mind that too, because you have, like you said, so many good prospects. Them working with Mako is just gonna make them better. Romeo saying Roxanne played it to perfection. So many people thought it was a shoot and were concerned. I did not. I am not one of those people because it was obviously a work to me when I saw it.
My perfect way to say it is they wouldn't air it if it was real.
Exactly. They would have took the camera away. They would have played it a lot differently if it was real. And you got to be fair, Romeo. Probably the people that you heard that from are NXT fans and probably just started watching wrestling during the 2.0 era. On Wednesday, though, the official NXT Twitter account offered an update on the story, noting producers killing it with the titles. Tell me a lie and time to walk away. Offered an update on the story, noting that Roxanne Perez is currently in the hospital. On Friday, WWE has provided an update on Roxanne Perez after she collapsed on this week's episode. In the update, they said, update, Roxanne Perez has been discharged from the hospital and is now at home resting. But the bigger news story for NXT this week is a departure, as Saray's time in WWE has come to an end, according to a new report. It was Tokyo Sports on Wednesday reports that the NXT roster member has applicably left the company with her contract having expired and will be returning to Japan on May 16th. Saray, who previously competed as Sari, signed with WWE in 2020. Her debut for the company was delayed due to the pandemic, and she finally debuted in 2021. Her strong start was undercut when NXT 2.0 came about, and she never recovered despite a rebranding as an NMAS character who changed by the power of her necklace given to her by her grandmother. Fightful Select had confirmed that Saray has bookings elsewhere, and WWE has yet to officially comment on the news, but her work with the company is said to be effectively finished. According to the new report, the end of the line for Saray began when many of her biggest supporters in NXT were released in early 2022, and that the signs were clear by last spring. William Regal's exit was considered a turning point in the situation, and she was never factored in consistently into the creative decisions after that point. Those at the WWE Performance Center noted that she hadn't even been around in a long time, and when they asked about her, they weren't given any answers. Most in the company agreed that the creative that was given to her was poor, and it was noted that Saray took a lot of pride in her short program with Tiffany Stratton, where she helped Stratton establish herself, and that she had high opinions of the rising talent in the company. There was a language barrier for her, but they were said to be no issues with her in how she dealt with people, and the site had only heard good things about her from others at the Performance Center. All I saw when I started telling this story is Scott just in the background like, let's go! What do you think about this whole exit for Saray from WWE?
She was never going to make sense in that company.
Yes.
And as someone, again, who really cares about someone like Sari, I'm so happy she gets to go home and wrestle again, right? We're waiting for Monday to see what her press conference says, obviously, but she is all in-ring talent. Like, she is fantastic inside the ring, and you saw it in glimpses in NXT for those who may not have known her beforehand. Right, with that killer bottom rope drop kick and the crushing forearms.
She started the whole transformation for Mandy Rose. That was one of the biggest things she did in the company.
She did. So shout out to Sari for giving Mandy that road to greatness, I guess. But this was like, you never want to see someone like lose a dream job or anything like that. But this was like the best news I could have seen because she deserves so much better. She is so much better than this. And with Sari, the reason she was never going to work in WWE is what she does best is in ring. She doesn't have the charisma of an Io Shirai or a Kyrie or an Asuka even. And she is all in ring, right? Like if you look at the current world of Joshi, she fits like the very best in ring workers, but not necessarily someone that you'd see go to WWE. Like and I'm not going to name anyone because I don't want anyone to go to WWE from the Joshi scene.
You don't want to give them any type of clues, any type of hint? No.
Nope. If they have someone listening to this, I'm not giving you any ideas. But I'm so happy because now it kind of feels like she's finally going to make her name known in Stardom, which was supposed to happen originally, but she signed the damn contract and it didn't happen that way, which is of course my preference. But I'm very happy for her, and I'm happy it ended amicably. You know, it's not like she got released out of nowhere or something like that. You know what's my best comparison? She's a lot like Kushida. Kushida was all in ring more than anything else. Yeah, he had a character, but he was always going to shine in ring more than on the microphone or just with expressions and the character work, like an Io Shirai has worked or an Asuka. Like they have killed it, right, in all aspects. Those two were always going to have to be in ring, and once NXT became 2.0, it's over for her.
Yeah. That was the thing, and I definitely agree with that comparison to Kushida, and it's similar with both of them that they just let their contracts expire, realized this wasn't the place for them, and they went back. I think the big thing that, like you said, she is not on the same type of charisma as your Kana, Asuka, your Io Shirai, Io Sky, Kairi Sane, Kairi. But they made those comparisons during the build-up to her debut, and that put her in like a kind of a box where it was going to expose the fact that she doesn't have that charisma, so the company is not going to invest like they did in those three ladies.
Exactly. It's a very hard group to live up to in a lot of ways, and even saying that, Kairi's ceiling was still only tag titles. It's not like she ever got to. And now look at her now compared to then. And it's like Sari's going to have the WWE rub still. That's a good thing. She's going to be able to say she was in WWE, and that's going to be good for her overall. Like if she's challenging for the IWGP Women's title within the next year or two, I wouldn't be shocked because that WWE thing rub, it at least brings familiarity to her that excites people. Could we see Sari and Mercedes? Wouldn't shock me. I don't know how long Mercedes is going to have that title. That's really the limit. But I do think we are going to see Sari eventually challenge for that IWGP. Again, assuming she's back full time. I'm waiting for that press conference just because in Joshi, you never know.
Yep. And we got Romeo who says, see, there's no shame in trying WWE and just leaving if it doesn't work out, Kenny, Matt, and Nick. Stop it, Romeo. Stop it with your nonsense. But you brought up Stardom, so we got to talk about the big show that they had last Saturday morning. Stardom Triangle Derby, one championship battle, the finals of their trios tournament, which had their current trios champion, the Artist of Stardom champions, Prominence, defeat God's Eye to retain the titles and win the inaugural Triangle Derby tournament. It was a great matchup to end things off in the tournament, which actually also had two really good semifinals matches on the same show. In my favorite match of this whole entire show, Scott, AZM defeating Starlight Kid in a tremendous fast-paced bout to retain the high-speed championship. I loved their match last year. This was just as good, maybe even better, with these two ladies trading off pinfalls and submissions throughout the bout. Then in the matchup that I saw you raving about, I raved about it as well. Saya Kamatani beat Hazuki in a deeply emotional, thrilling bout to retain the Wonder of Stardom championship. Post-match, Kamatani finally challenged Mina Shirakawa to face her for the title on April 23rd at Yokohama Arena. Speaking of which, Julia and Maya Yuhiki, I'm trying to say these names as best as possible, went to a double count out in a brutal, hard-hitting, grueling bout, headbutts, some nasty headbutts, I'll be honest. I was like, yo, these ladies are beating the crap out of each other. And then post-match, the ghost of Christmas past for Julia, Tam Nakano, showed up, the woman that made her cut her hair, and challenged her for the World of Stardom Championship on April 23rd at Yokohama Arena. That's their big major show, their biggest show in company history coming up. So they did a lot of building for that show. But I saw you talking about it, and I totally agree. This was one of the best shows of the year, period, across the board. What was your we'll do the same thing we did with Revolution. Give us your 3 main highlights of the show.
Oh, so many highlights. This was one of those shows where Stardom just kind of like said, yeah, we are the best. Okay, like they can do that from whenever they want. It's just a matter of when. My 3 highlights: Hazuki coming oh so close to winning that title is number one. Number one, because I'm a big Hazuki fan. She's one of my very, very top favorites, and she made me a believer in that match. I knew she wasn't going to win, but she convinced me she was going to. Number 2, probably Prominence winning the tournament. I just love what they've done with them, and they're kind of level up, really. And number 3 would be everything about Julia and Maya, like those two. And we got a little report, of course, from the Observer this week that these two actually hate each other. Yeah. Whatever, sure, go ahead. If they do, that's great. But like these two went out there, they put on the exact match you wanted them to put on, and I'm not even that affected from the double count out anymore because I kind of appreciate it more. And if they do hate each other, then good. It makes the match even better.
I said I totally love this non-finish double count out because I feel like that should have been the finish for Okada and Kiyomiya. So I was totally all right with it. I was like, no, I am totally into this. I did not know Maya before this matchup. Now I am totally invested in her rivalry with Julia. And I was like, Julia just has a plethora of matchups because you got Tam Nakano coming up on April 23rd. I don't know what's going to happen at the April 23rd show with her, but I think the matchup that I want to see most for Julia's reign is her and Mayu Iwatani because they had the 2 draws last year and we still need a definitive winner between them. So that's the main match that I want to see for her reign. But now you got Maya that she can run it back with. I think Suzuki is another one. Suzu is another one that they need to run that back as well. So there's so many big matchups for her. A rematch with Shuri would also be a big one as well. So I think this Julia run is going to be awesome.
And to talk on the one match I didn't name, and it's not because I didn't think it was great. I thought it was the second best match on the show. Azumi and Starlight Kid. By the way, everyone, if you listen to Mercedes Moné saying AZM, that's on purpose. She's doing that.
I know. She's working everybody. She's working anybody.
It's great. So the way to say her name, and this is anyone that reads AZM, that's how I would say it. That's how I did say it initially too. So I get it. It's Azumi. That's, again, totally understand why it's like difficult because it's just spelled AZM. But Mercedes Moné is doing such a great job at selling it that way that I don't know how you could. I have to watch Star. Yeah, it felt like a real fight. But to Azumi and Starlight Kid, that is your eternal rivalry in, like, it's generational, those two. And they've now had 2 great matches. And here's the thing. They are going to be that much better 5 years down the line because Azumi's 20 and Starlight Kid is 21. This isn't fair that these 2 are so young. And Suzuki's 20. Like, they have these 3. I'm a big fan of Hanan, who hasn't made that step yet to those matches, but still my point. is that they have such a young core. But I wanted to speak highly of Azumi and Starlight Kid as well because they're just so good. They are just so good.
And I've been joking about Mercedes keep calling her AZM, and I think I just called her AZM when I did that recap because that's what it says on my run sheet. So
I didn't even notice you if you said it or not. I just want to say because I know some people are like, you're learning a lot about Stardom through Mercedes Moné, which is great. I think Mercedes Moné was my one dream match in the history of wrestling ever is Mayu Iwatani and Mercedes Moné. Like, that is it. Mayu Iwatani is my favorite wrestler of all time, and Mercedes Moné, I think, is the greatest women's U.S. wrestler, maybe even North American wrestler ever. That's how highly I think of Mercedes Moné. So the fact that we might be getting that has, and I said last year, so, before I got to know you, all the Mercedes talk was happening, like, oh, she might leave, blah, 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 blah. I said, if I see Mercedes Moné and Mayu Iwatani, I will retire. Then and there. I don't need anything else. I'm done. I'm gone. And now it might be happening. Everyone's like, uh-oh.
It's like, no, we don't want you to leave, Scott. We need you, Scott.
I feel pretty honored by that, truthfully. But I don't know. I might be it. Might be it for me.
Well, talking about that, the Wrestling Observer newsletter did report that Mercedes Moné is set to appear at Stardom's All-Star Grand Queendom on April 23rd. Even though she has not been announced, Stardom is planning to have her at the event where she will defend the IWGP Women's title against Mayu Iwatani. However, they can't announce the match because Moné will face Azumi on April 8th at the New Japan Pro Wrestling Sakura Genesis in Tokyo's Suma Hall. It was also noted that this Stardom event will see Moné get the most money anyone's ever made at a Stardom show. I do agree with Dave in The Observer where he said they should at least announce that Mercedes on the show. They don't have to announce that she'd be defending the IWGP Women's Championship. They could say pending that or something, but they need to announce her for the show because I think that would instantly get like a sellout regardless of how people feel, because you'll have the international people that might want to come out for this show.
No, I think that makes a ton of sense. I will say the good thing about wrestling in Japan, there's a great walk-up crowd that buy tickets, so they'll be okay. I would also announce that even just say there will be an IWGP women's title match on that show. I think that's your best way of saying it, because it's like, oh, Mercedes will probably be there, because if you want to protect the Azumi match, that's fine. But yeah, I would announce it ahead of time, just because you've announced now everything else ahead of time, and we're still almost a month and a half away, so there's plenty of time to announce it. But I'd give everyone a month if they want to get over there.
Exactly. Give us the international people a chance to make arrangements, But speaking of New Japan, they had a couple of big shows this week as the New Japan Cup is up and running, but they also had their 51st anniversary show, and this featured probably my favorite tag team match of the year so far. An excellent main event with Bishamon defeating Hiroshi Tanahashi and Kazuchika Okada to retain the IWGP Tag Team Championships. This was like a traditional story of the tag team versus two of the top guys, and this just delivered in every way. I think it's Bishamon's best matchup as a tag team yet. Shota Umino beat Yujiro Takahashi to move on in the New Japan Cup tournament. And speaking of the tournament, in the other first round matchup, we had our boy, we've been talking about him all show, David Finlay, reveal himself to be officially joining the Bullet Club, and he becomes the third man who is managed by Gato after Kazuchika Okada and Switchblade Jay White, before defeating Tomohiro Ishii in a banger of a matchup. Also, New Japan this week, you had the New Japan Cup first round finishing up, going into the second round that started this morning. In the rest of the first round matches this week, you had Mark Davis beat Toriano, while Evo defeated Ren Narita on day 2. You had Kyle Fletcher pull off arguably an upset over Yoshihashi in a great bout. In the biggest upset of the week, you had Aaron Hanare pull off the win over former IWGP World Heavyweight Champion Shingo Takagi, and that sets up a couple of interesting matches as Aaron Hanare will now face Tama Tonga, the never openweight champion. Kyle Fletcher will face Hiroki Goto, so he could beat both of the tag team champions in this tournament. Evil's gonna versus Jeff Cobb. You got United Empire versus United Empire with Mark Davis versus Will Ospreay. And then this morning, the second round sets up another stable versus stable matchup as Tetsuya Naito defeated Chase Owens of the Bullet Club in the second round, and Sonata defeated Kenta. So now we're gonna have Sonata versus Tetsuya Naito in the quarterfinals. So New Japan Cup heating up. But first, what did you think about the 51st anniversary, with the big points being the main event and David Finlay, of course, our boy, joining the Bullet Club?
I thought it was great. I thought the David Finlay presentation was really good. I have an interesting look at David Finlay because he's good, right? I think we don't want to overlook that he is a good wrestler. The thing with David Finlay, though, is I think a lot of people just kind of skip over him a lot of the time because you had Jay White, you had Will Ospreay, you had all these great international stars there. But Jay White walks away and it's time to make a new one. And, I said this on Twitter when Jay White left, him leaving isn't going to be as appreciated, I think, by the general media because of what Jay White is. Jay White was a dojo trained international main event star. That doesn't happen a lot. And I said, I don't know when you're going to have that come around again. Little did I know that within one match in Bullet Club, David Finlay might be able to be that guy. And I need to wait and see his other matches now because he did it with Ishii. Congratulations.
Everyone has a great match with Ishii.
Yeah. But I liked the match style that he had, right? It wasn't plotting as much like Jay White, because I think Jay White can only really do that. It's more, rough and tough, kind of fitting of what a Finlay would wrestle like one of the Finlays would wrestle like. But at the same time, it has that heelish nature that I think he could stand out with. So I'm really excited for David Finlay. And that main event, 51st anniversary,
I had to rewatch it, and I rated it higher on the rewatch than I did when I initially watched it because there's so many nuances to it with the story of how Okada has dominated Yoshihashi and Goto in singles matches, how Tanahashi has had this upsets with Yoshihashi and Goto beating them in singles, and how it all came together in this matchup. I thought it was the best tag team match I've seen in 2023 so far. I love that matchup, and I loved the Finlay and Ishii match on the second viewing as well. As far as the New Japan Cup, we got to bring up Aaron Hanare beating Shingo. I know so many people in the chat. I saw a couple of people commenting saying they are upset. I think it was the right move, though. I know he got the win over him in the tag team matchup, but once he did that in the tag team match on 51st anniversary, I was like, oh, Shingo's going to win in the tournament. That's fine. They're just building him up for that. But for him to beat him again one-on-one in the tournament, I was like, and they beat the crap out of each other in that matchup. That was probably my favorite of the New Japan Cup matches after the 51st anniversary. But what do you think about Aaron Hanare beating Shingo?
Well, I don't like Aaron Hanare, so I'll start off by saying that. But it makes sense because then you get a KOPW championship challenger, and then he can go on. He could probably lose to Tama Tonga, and Tama Tonga will lose to someone else to get an over openweight challenger. That's really how you look at these tournaments. So it makes sense. I don't like Aaron Hanare. I've seen some stuff that he said, but that I don't really like. But the story that they're telling is the United Empire success. That's ultimately what they're telling. And it's can these other guys that aren't named Will Ospreay kind of rise through the ranks and rise above in a lot of ways? And we won't talk too much about it, but I watched Kyle Fletcher's singles match with Yoshihashi, and I walked away saying, "All right, there's your new main event international star. This guy is perfect. He's tall, he's young, he's only 24, which is insane. He he has like a great look to him. And don't get me wrong, I'm not breaking Aussie Open up right now, not a chance.
No.
But for 3 or 4 years down the line, if this guy was main eventing for the IWGP World Heavyweight title, I wouldn't be shocked. He's a stud.
Got a nice little mentor versus protege matchup with Fletcher versus Ospreay in the future for sure, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm excited for Mark Davis and Ospreay too. I want because that's a different clashing of styles, and I think they'll do great.
Yeah, I want to see if Ospreay can get him up for the Stormbreaker. The only news note from New Japan, they have a huge event coming up on May 21st. New Japan Strong has announced that Resurgence will return. The company announced on Wednesday that the event will take place in Long Beach, California, and will air live on pay-per-view, probably Fight TV as well. Speaking of Fight TV, one of the Fight TV favorites, GCW had 2 shows this past week. GCW Holy Smokes, which had Drew Parker having his final death match in America in a loss to John Wayne Murdoch. You also had Vikingo making his return to GCW, defeating Alex Zane in a crazy high-flying bout. In one of my favorite matches from either one of these shows, Rina Yamashita beat Casey Kirk in one of the most insane, physically brutal death matches between 2 women I have ever seen in my goddamn life. On GCW, Ransom was the next night. They had the Motor City Machine Guns defeating Los Masitos to win the GCW World Tag Team titles. Ali Catch beat Charles Mason inside a steel cage to end their rivalry as well. I know we were talking middle of the week saying that we were both on catch up on these shows. Were you able to watch them, and what was your thoughts?
Yeah, so I was able to get through them. So my thing is, I can't usually watch full shows because there's just some matches I don't give a damn about. I'm gonna be honest with you. But I go out of my way to see certain things, and that Casey Kirk and Rita Yamashita match, I've never seen Casey Kirk wrestle before.
Me either.
Never saw her wrestle before. I know she's a deathmatch wrestler. I've heard her name. I just never had seen her wrestle. I know who Rina Yamashita is. I know what Rina Yamashita brings to the table. So it was an instant watch for me, and I just was like, oh my God. If Hangman and Moxley didn't just happen, this would be the best death match of the week.
Yes.
No questions asked. It was excellent, and Casey Kirk made a fan out of me for sure. I'll be interested to see what else she has down the line. I'll pick and choose because I'm not a huge deathmatch fan. I pick and choose. It comes for me. If you are a great wrestler who does deathmatch as well, you'll win me over. I'm not going to say anything about the other one. Bad wrestlers that just do things. But Casey Kirk seemed to be that. And so I was blown away by that. Motor City Machine Guns, there is never a bad time to have the Motor City Machine Guns win anything. I just want to say that. I thought, what was the other match that I really liked? Vikingo and Alex Zane. Yeah, that was insane. That was crazy. Oh, and I even Asuka and Joey Janela. Venny and Joey Janela.
I love that. Yeah, I love that match as well.
And I'm not a big Joey Janela fan, admittedly. I have said many times that I do not enjoy him, but I thought he was a perfect matchup for Venny. I thought they had a really solid match. And the big trios women's match on Ransom.
Yes. I think it was Rina Yamashita, Venny, and Maki Ito versus Billy Starks, Janai Kai, and Sawyer Wreck. Those are all a bunch of my favorites on the independent scene, so that was great. And I love Maki Ito being gang affiliated on GCW. That's my favorite thing about GCW events when Maki Ito's on it now. This week you also had ROH TV on Honor Club, episode 2 of the new era, with one of my favorite women's matches of the year, especially women's TV matches, as Athena defeated Willow Nightingale to retain the ROH Women's World Championship. These 2 women beat the crap out of each other. So the same thing you could say about Trisha Dora beating Billy Starks in a physical affair. You also had Samoa Joe defeating Tony Deppen to retain the ROH World TV title. Post-match, Mark Briscoe challenged Joe for the title. Eddie Kingston beat a jobber named Bendejo. Let me repeat that. A jobber named Bendejo. Post-match, Eddie called out Claudio Castagnoli for a shot at the ROH World Championship, with Claudio responding that a man with no honor would never hold the championship. Aussie Open beat Tracy Williams and Rhett Titus in a fun tag team bout. Willie Yuta defeated Timothy Thatcher in an awesome ROH Pure title matchup. And then post-match, Yuta called out the Japan Dojo Boys, which brought out Clark Connors to challenge Wheeler for next week. What did you think about ROH TV this week?
It was excellent. It was an excellent episode,
Yeah.
better than week one. Kind of everything I think we hope to see in Ring of Honor moving forward. That main event was fantastic. It was, I am willing to say it is the best women's match on American soil so far this year.
Wow.
Yeah, and I love Jamie versus Emi Sakura, for example, but I thought these two killed it. I think my favorite part about this match is that we've seen these two go down really exciting routes over the past year, right? We've seen Athena become this great heel and very vicious and very Joshi-esque in a lot of ways in her style. She's hard hitting. She's not pulling back on anyone. And we've seen Willow become an instant fan favorite. Someone that, I think the charisma has been there from the moment it started. And then we have seen the in-ring catch up to the charisma. And this match was like, oh, there it is. That's the complete package of Willow Nightingale right there. She's fantastic. I love that they got the main event. I love Athena. I think Athena and I assume Yuka Sakazaki will be great at Supercard of Honor if that's still the way they're going. They did tease that, and then I know Yuka had to go back to Japan, obviously, but it seems like that is the clear path for Supercard of Honor, which is exciting. I hope they tape some stuff for backstage that maybe we haven't seen yet for when they were here. But I'm excited. I'm excited about Ring of Honor. That match got me excited. All the title match got me excited. I thought Yuta and Timothy Thatcher was really good. And I love the tag match, and I love Billy Starks and Trish Adora. So great episode this week.
I really enjoyed this episode. They're cooking right now between the first episode and this one. They're doing good stuff. With Ring of Honor TV. The final show that we missed this week, Impact on Access TV, also from Thursday night. The show featured Mickie James beating Giselle Shaw to retain the Impact Knockouts World Championship, thanks to an assist from Deonna Purrazzo. You had Kylan King made her debut to join Taylor Wilde to form the Covenant in attacking Killer Kelly. Kushida defeated Jonathan Gresham in a very good technical wrestling bout. And then some news coming out of Impact Wrestling. The biggest news that I saw, PW Insider reports that Taya Valkyrie wrapped up her commitments to Impact Wrestling at the TV taping in Las Vegas last month. She was not signed to the company and is believed to be signing elsewhere. Impact has already shot material to explain her exit. As for where she is going, it's unknown at this time. She is currently the MLW Featherweight Champion, so unless she signs there, she would have to drop that title. There has been speculation that she could be the Canadian star that faces Jade Cargill in Winnipeg next week. I did see that we had a question in regards to that. Ronin Ghost saying, I have a question for you guys. Taya Valkyrie is done with Impact Wrestling. Her contract expired. Where do you see her going from here? I hope it's not AEW, because you guys know she'd be wasted. I don't know if she'd be wasted, because I think that she would be among the, as far as charisma, among the top women in that company. Where do you think Taya Valkyrie goes?
Yeah, I think she's going to AEW. You want to talk about being wasted? Do you remember Frankie Monet?
Exactly. If you want to talk about her getting wasted, you should be like, I hope she doesn't go to WWE again.
Yeah. I'm not like a gigantic Taya fan or anything, but her character works really good. Yeah. And maybe she joins the Outcasts. I don't know. I know she's in WWE for a second, but like in a lot of ways, Tony Storm kind of was too. Because NXT UK we're not counting. No offense to NXT UK and what she did there. But yeah, I think AEW is a fine spot for her. It's a veteran presence. a veteran I think they need, because I think Madison Reigns kind of missed the mark for them. Didn't see that one coming. But I think she's a good signing to bring in, and I wonder if Johnny Elite's following with her.
Maybe. I mean, I know he just came to MLW and he won their open weight championship. Yeah, it's not. We've always said that MLW is serving peanuts and hot dogs.
You also just told me that Taya has an MLW title.
Is it good as an MLB?
Yeah, I guess so. Like, I guess it doesn't really matter, because if she's signing with another company, clearly that title doesn't have much importance to it.
Yeah. But we shall see. But that is all from this week. So we're going to close things off with usually Miss Krssi Luv's favorite segment of the show, Match of the Week. Since it's so much wrestling that we covered over this entire show, finishing off here, we're going to give us 5 matches to list this time. We're not going to do the 3 that we usually do. We need 5 for all the wrestling that we saw this week. This was kind of tough. I told Scott this, and they're like, "Oh, that's easy." I was like, "No, this is kind of tough for me, because there's so many matches I want to mention that I love this week." Honorable mentions for this week, I gotta say Athena and Willow Nightingale from the ROH show, the GCW show with Rina Yamashita versus Casey Kirk, Riho versus Nyla Rose as well. I really enjoyed, but my 5 for this week, number 5, I gotta go with Bishamon versus Hiroshi Tanahashi and Kazuka Okada. Number 4, I really want to make it a tie. Yeah, I'm cheating. Make it a tie. 4th place, I got to pick the 2 Stardom matches with Hazuki versus Saya Kamitani and Azumi versus Starlight Kid. Both of those matches deserve to be mentioned in my top 5 here. But the final 3 all come from one show, Revolution. I got to go Elite versus House of Black. Number 2, John Moxley versus Hangman Adam Page, Texas Deathmatch. And number 1, MJF versus Bryan Danielson, the Iron Man match.
Oh, there's a lot of wrestling this week. So my honorable mention will be Athena and Willow, like you said. One of them on the list desperately, would probably be on the list any other week, truthfully.
Yeah.
But just tough to make it. So I'll go with number 5. I'll do Bishamon versus Tanahashi and Okada, like you did. I think I was kind of locked in on that one from the start. Number 4, I'm going to go with Azumi and Starlight Kid. Number 3, I'll go with Moxley and Hangman Page. Number 2, I'm going to go with Saya Kamitani and Hazuki. And number 1, I will go with, of course, the boring option of MJF and Bryan Danielson.
Had to this week. I know it's tough for you because you love that Hazuki versus Saya match.
Well, here's my. I didn't get to say this, but I have critiques for both of them. You know why both of them aren't like the end all be all match of the year contender that I want them to be? I think the wrong person lost in both of them. I mean, won in both of them. That like, if Danielson won, it'd be my match of the year, no questions asked. If Hazuki won, it might be my match of the year, but that didn't happen, so we'll never know. We'll never know. That's my only critiques on both of those matches, which I think are pretty good critiques.
I think it is too.
But it is what it is. Great week of wrestling. Thank you so much for having me on for this week of all weeks. I mean,
yeah. I had to because you're the one person I know that's seen all of it. I was like, if I'm gonna ask one person who's seen all of this, I gotta ask Scott. So thank you so much for joining us on the show. This has honestly been one of my favorites as far as somebody who can talk about any of the shows that we talked about this week. So please, Scott, the floor is yours. The spotlight is yours. Let the people know everywhere they can follow you and what you got going on. Interviews over on Fightful, everywhere else. Let them know.
Yes, thank you so much again for having me on here. You can follow me, as it says right here at Scott E Wrestling. That's where you can see all my takes, everything that I'm talking about, every match I'm watching throughout the week. I'm actually watching the Battle of Los Angeles right now, which is very exciting. Because I said I can't wait. I need to buy the DVDs. I never buy the DVDs, but I was like, this one looked really good, had Takeshita in it, so why not? had Master Slamovich in it. I was very interested. But you can follow me there. You can check out all my stuff at Fightful. I'm working on a lot of interviews right now, but my Janai Kai one dropped yesterday. So go check that out. I also have interviews up from Mariah May of Stardom, Julia of Stardom, Saori Anu from the Joshi scene. Oh, it's a lot of people. I'm probably missing someone, so that's my bad. But please go check all those out. And like I said, check out that Future of Joshi series on Voices of Wrestling. I'd really appreciate it. And tomorrow morning, I go live as well for Ring Post Radio, if you want to check that out with the Count Out Network. I don't know what we're talking about. That's the funny thing. Probably some of this, but we already did Revolution, so you won't have to hear me talk about that again. It'll probably be something new, truthfully. Probably reviewing mostly the New Japan Cup and stuff like that. But please go check that out as well. But this was a blast. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us, Scott. We appreciate the love, appreciate you coming on and showing your knowledge of this whole wrestling game. You can follow me on the Twitter machine, like it says here at Tru Heel SP3. You can follow the gang Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Tru Heel Heat. Patreon.com/Tru Heel Heat. $3 a month. That's the best way to support us over there. We got the Tru Heel Heat Prediction Championship for all the major shows like the ones we talked about here, as well as the New Japan Cup that is ongoing. Check out Tru Heel Heat Sports, our secondary channel, where we had our Tru Heel Heat Check podcast talking about the latest and greatest in NBA basketball. Myself and Chris G broke down everything from Kevin Durant's injury to Ja Morant and his old gun stuff. We talked about that. We also talked about Anthony Davis and the Lakers, Nikola Jokic and the MVP debate. Also check out right here on the Tru Heel Heat YouTube channel my interview with Montezi that just went up yesterday, talking about his new single Price Went Up, his relationship with Swerve Strickland, the Swerve City podcast, and more. It's a great interview, so check it out now.
Can't confirm. It is a great interview. I watched it yesterday, so good job.
Appreciate that, man. Appreciate that. But thank you to everyone who joined us in the live chat. Thank you to our producer, Baby Steph. And thank you, Scott, once again for being a great special guest here. Definitely, we're going to have you back on the show when it has a lot of wrestling like this past week.
Sweet. Can't wait.
For Scott, it is me, your Tru Heel Phenom, SP3. This has been Tru Heel Heat 216, Mustache Mania. We are signing off until